10 projects around the coast under the Brexit Adjustment Reserve. 15 projects worth over €16 million in Donegal are to benefit. Works will be carried out at Rathmullen Pier, Burton Port, Mahary, while €8.8 million is being invested in the construction of a breakwater at Greencastle. Minister for Agriculture, Food and the Marine, Charlie McConlogue, says the funding will help support fishing and coastal communities living in a post-Brexit economy.
Overall, what we see is 15 projects across the county, bringing our piers and harbours up to the standard that is really required, ensuring significant projects which have been waiting in funding for a number of years, finally getting funded. And I look forward now to working with Donegal County Council, who've done really strong work in relation to putting these applications together to ensure that these projects can actually follow through over the coming period of time, and that we see the significant investment make a real difference to the fishing community and indeed our coastal communities right throughout the county.
Rural communities with populations of under 500 people are to be exempt from new laws banning the sale and distribution of turf. After a clash with his government colleagues on the issue, the Environment Minister has said that the ban due to come into force on September the 1st will focus on commercial and retail activities. In an interview with the Irish Independent, Eamon Ryan says there has been major misinformation and disinformation that the state would arrest your granny for burning the wrong fuel. He added that inspectors will not be sent out to police the sale of turf. The PRO of the Micah Action Group believes Donegal County councillors need to be stepping up to the mark to get affected homes repaired. In a social media update, Michael Doherty called on Donegal County Council to expedite the process and ensure applications are looked at and processed as quick as possible for homeowners. He says there is still much frustration as the bid for redress continues.
The deep frustration by everybody out there, we understand that. It's no different, in the campaign we have got that frustration. As a family at home watching our house crumble, we understand that too. We just want to get back to normal lives as soon as possible, but with homes that we can live in again.
Weather now mainly dry today with a mix of cloud and sunny spells. Isolated showers will develop in the afternoon with highest temperatures today of 11 to 13 degrees. That's all from Highland Radio News for now. We'll be back with news again at 10 o'clock. Until then, good morning.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union, now offering mortgages from €40,000 to €600,000 with no hidden fees or transaction charges. Letterkenny Credit Union, 9102127.
This is your guide to smart glasses. Smart glasses often look like regular glasses, and some of them have built-in cameras. Even if you don't wear smart glasses, it's helpful to know what it looks like when someone who is wearing them is taking a photo or video. The person wearing smart glasses usually has to take an action, such as tapping the capture button to activate the camera. When the smart glasses are recording, you'll see an LED light on the frame. So now you know a bit more about smart glasses.
A message from Meta and Essilor Luxottica.
And a very good morning to you. This is the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio. Donal Kavanagh with you until 12 noon today. It's as ever a packed show with lots to get through, but as we always say, the key to this programme, the most important part of what we do, is to reflect your views, your perspectives and your opinions. If you'd like to speak to us, you can call us on 074 91 25000, 0035 374 91 25000 if you're outside of the dialing area. Caroline taking your calls and producing this morning as well. You can text us, of course, 086 60 25000. That number good for WhatsApp messages as well. We are on social media as always at Highland Radio on Twitter, Highland Hub on Facebook, and indeed you can watch us on Facebook Live and on our YouTube channel if you have access to a screen, and you can sit back and actually enjoy the programme and watch the interactions on Zoom, and that's another level of interaction you can have with the show. You can of course email us as well, comments at highlandradio.com. It is a Monday, which means we have a number of local papers, and we'll begin our paper review this morning with the Monday edition of the Donegal News. The main headline: crippling costs force closure. Killybegs restaurant to close due to dramatic rise in running costs. Linda Boyle and her husband Gary, who opened Fusion Bistro in Killybegs in 2019, say the crippling increase in the cost of everyday stock and overheads means they will be closing their doors, and we will indeed be speaking to Linda shortly. She has been, of course, a guest on the programme before, and we'll be speaking to Linda over the course of the programme this morning. The main headline on the Derry News: Derry has the North's noisiest neighbours. Research shows more men caught prying than women. People in Derry have been exposed in their voyeuristic habits. More than 1 in 3 homeowners have admitted to looking into neighbours' homes from outside. And the survey by Shuttercraft, who provide made-to-measure window coverings, looked into people's curiosity and willingness to overstep boundaries. So are you a nosy neighbour in Derry, or do you indeed feel that you are being surveilled, as it were, by a nosy neighbour in Derry? And is it any different in Tyrone and Fermanagh and Donegal and surrounding areas? Let us know what you think. Turf Wars is the headline on the Irish Independent. Greens back down to allow opt-out for local sales. You'll have heard Michaela cover this on the news as well. We're not going to have people going into cottages and sifting through the grate, says Eamon Ryan. Eamon Ryan has given into pressure from his coalition colleagues in the turf war, and if ever there was a headline that was sort of already written, it's that one. In what's being billed as an exclusive interview with the Irish Independent, the minister revealed that small rural communities of fewer than 500 people will be exempt from the ban on the selling and gifting of turf. Front of the Irish Times: magnificent news for Europe as Macron wins second term. Emmanuel Macron is promising a more independent France after defeating the right-wing leader Marine Le Pen. And a lot of people would have been looking at Marine Le Pen's achievements over the past number of weeks with a certain amount of worry, and one wonders now what Mr Macron will have to do in order to appease the large level of support that Marine Le Pen obviously had. She bettered her previous score by 7.5%, and anti-system parties won 2/3 of the vote in the first round, Laura Marlowe tells us in her story on the front of the Irish Times. Also on the front: legal framework of maternity hospital approved. The board of the HSE has approved new proposals aimed at ensuring the independence of the new National Maternity Hospital. That's been an issue of some discussion over a long time. And Ukrainians to access vacant social homes. Cross-department task force to oversee long-term response to refugee crisis. Front of the Irish Daily Mail this morning: woman's 4-year wait for cancer surgery. Women with a cancer-causing gene mutation are being told to expect to wait up to 4 years for potentially life-saving surgery. Support groups have criticised the wait as scandalous. Those who test positive for the BRCA1 gene mutation have up to a 90% chance of developing breast cancer. And that stands at 85% for those with the BRCA2 mutation, and the waiting time to be tested for the presence of the gene can be 18 months. Bernie Carter, the Director of Nursing with the Marie Keating Foundation, is expressing concern. The Irish Sun this morning: no Dan is an island. Pals rush to desert Kinahan. A paranoid thug fears his own mob. There's fury at fall of evil drugs empire. Paranoid mob boss Daniel Kinahan, we're told, fears one of his associates will turn him into cops to save themselves. An insider told of the gangster's fury after the US government slapped a $5 million bounty on his head. A source said everyone has now deserted him. Also, Piers interview. Trump has suggested that Harry and Meg be stripped of their royal titles. Quite what it has to do with Donald Trump, I'm not sure, but there you go. Irish Daily Star this morning: GSOC probe drown death. GSOC is probing the circumstances of a man's death after he drowned in a river following an interaction with Gardaí. Craig Gifford's body was found 3 days after he fell into the water. I do beg your pardon. I do have a frog in my throat this morning for some reason. He fell into the water while reportedly trying to hide from Gardaí. More details on the inside. Also on the front page, a picture of Ed Sheeran. Sheer bliss is the headline there. And lots of sports news, obviously, on the front of the Red Tops this morning as well. Not least, of course, news of Donegal's victory over Armagh yesterday. That was a much discussed match in the papers and on the programme indeed over the past couple of days. We'll be speaking to Brendan Devaney a bit later on in the programme. Brendan's here at around 11 o'clock or so, and obviously the DL debate will be on tonight as well. On the Irish Daily Mirror this morning, Kinahan's drug route exposed. Mob thugs force South American cocaine through EU ports. Daniel Kinahan is using Moroccan thugs to force drug shipments through Europe's busiest ports before flooding the continent with cocaine. The Irish Mirror today reveals how the imploding Kinahan cartel manages its operations, moving narcotics from South America into the European market. A source said Daniel has been dealing at the top table in terms of drug trafficking. So there are the papers as they're looking this morning. If anything in that review piqued your interest, or if you've any comment to make on any of those stories, or indeed, as we say, anything was covered on the programme this morning, you can... I beg your pardon. Yep, you can call us on 07491 25000, 00353 749 125,000 outside the dialing area. Text and WhatsApp number is 086 60 25,000.
The newspapers are courtesy of Kelly Centra, Mountaintop, Letterkenny.
At Michael Murphy Sports and Leisure, we know a good pair of trainers makes all the difference, whether you're running marathons or training for your first 5k. We stock all the leading brands, including Asics, Brooks and New Balance, with different styles and features to suit individual running needs. Call in store or shop online at michaelmurphysports.ie.
For confirmation and First Communion, see the great selection of suits, casual wear and footwear at Watson Menswear, Letterkenny. Top brands, including 1880 Club, Lyle & Scott, Farah and Diesel. Also, Tommy Bow footwear, and all at great prices. Whatever the fit, whatever the style, confirmation and First Communions are covered. For less, at Watson Menswear. Open 7 days a week on Main Street, Letterkenny, and at watsonmenswear.com. Also, great end-of-sale bargains still available.
Most people say that Donegal is the coolest place on the planet, but up here we know that sometimes it can be the coldest. Charles Bunner & Sons Ballybuffet is the one-stop shop for all your heating needs. We have a huge range of multi-fuel and wood pellet stoves and ranges, spare parts for all major stove and range brands, plumbing and bathroom ware, all at exceptional prices. So visit our showrooms where our friendly and experienced team will be ready to help you. Charles Bunner & Sons Ballybuffet and the stovestore.ie, where you can always do a good deal better.
Foley's Bakery. In changing times, you need the right support to take the next step in building your business. Foley's Cafe. At Bank of Ireland, we're here to support the financial well-being of your business as it grows, with faster, easier loan applications and dedicated business teams when you need them. Hello, Foley's Coffee Roasters. Search Bank of Ireland Business. Bank of Ireland. Begin. Lending criteria, terms and conditions apply. Over 18s only. Bank of Ireland is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union. Is your bank leaving town? Letterkenny Credit Union is now offering MyCU current account and debit MasterCard, bringing full banking features with no appointment necessary to open your account.
Much is rightly said about the contribution made by tidy towns organisations right across Donegal to the general upkeep of the county and to the look of the county and to the towns within it. And at the weekend, as many as 60 volunteers took part in Antashka's Spring Clean 2022 event in Buncrana. Around 80 bags of rubbish were collected along the road and shorefront between Buncrana and Burnfoot. Now, I'm joined on the line by Willie McKinney, who is the chair of Buncrana Tidy Towns. Willie, good morning to you. Willie, first and foremost, congratulations to yourselves and to others who took part in that event at the weekend. But one of the issues of concern must be the fact that 80 bags of rubbish were picked up along the road and shorefront between Buncrana and Burnfoot. That points to a problem.
Yeah, it's a great concern, though. There is a certain amount of fly tipping going on, and we can't wait for this new legislation to kick in to tighten things up. This is more CCTV coverage, and if Donegal is to be the coolest state, which is supposed to be, we need to buck up and improve.
In terms of the reason for this, I mean, has there been an increase in recent years, do you believe, or has this been steady for a while?
Things have improved in Buncrana big time. From my involvement now goes roughly 12 years. But over time it has improved. But I think the charges that are imposed since the privatisation, I think the government made a bad blunder in the environment section, privatising bins, because people are Getting things a bit tight at the moment and have been for a period of time. And I personally feel that refuge collection and water should be a minimum requirement, which should be covered by local property tax.
Yeah. Now, the government's argument is going to be that the reason that they privatised waste services was in order to avoid the reintroduction of rates. Now, they did try to bring in water charges, and we all saw what happened there. So the government argument is going to be that effectively the service is being paid for because it's a service that's vital, it's a service that's necessary, and other issues in other areas are being covered by property tax.
Yeah, well, in the north, if you pay your rates, which granted can be a whole lot more, the equivalent to local property tax, they cover bins, water, and a lot of services.
Yeah. But of course, the difference is that we had rates here up to, if I'm correct, it was around about 1977 that local authority rates were abolished here. And that was done as a political promise in a general election. It is a promise that was delivered, and the intention always was that these charges would be made up elsewhere. So we're in a situation where certainly there perhaps is an argument that says bring back in rates and then have rates covering water and refuse and then improve the services. I'm not quite sure that would fly if that were to be floated by anybody at the moment.
No, it certainly would not. And that goes back to the Jack Lynch government. I think you're referring to back in the 70s there. It's a tricky one.
Is it your belief, though, that the fact that it is costing money now to put a tag on your bin and put your bin out, that is a contributory factor to the fact that we see an increase in fly tipping? Because there are many would argue that those who involve themselves in fly tipping show such a lack of civic pride and such a lack of civic response that, I mean, if it were a little cheaper to put a bin out, would they bother putting a bin out anyway?
Yeah. Well, I'll cite you an example of what happens around Buncana with the bins that are emptied, and by our litter warden, Brian Doyle, an excellent man who helps tidy towns to no end. He has told me that 60% of the bins, the big barrels, is put from Lisfannon right out to Stragill, various points along our lovely shorefront. 60% is made up of household refuge and ashes. So that's a shocking statistic there. And we as a group, we're not a big group, we're only about 15, but we managed to get a good turnout on Saturday, which is a gorgeous day. And until you get the numbers, you can't gauge how far you can go, but we sure went the distance up to Bridge End, which is not a healthy spot, which could be actually one of the black spots coming into this coolest county.
Yeah.
But look, we're proud of what we did, and we're a well-structured group. We meet once a month, and we decide what we want to do, and we get on with it. And we do get grants from Donegal County Council for various Donegal funding initiatives, Community Activities Fund, Community Enhancement Fund, and of course, POBL, Urban Renewal Grant. Previous minister was Minister Michael Ring. He was very good.
Yeah.
Now we have Minister Heather Humphreys, who will be coming to Buncana to open Swans Park on the 9th of May.
And I'm sure you'll take the opportunity to speak to Minister Humphreys about the extra supports and extra work that could be done to ensure that the town is improved in a number of areas. Well, in terms of what could be done, I mean, if we take it that at this point in time there is not going to be a root and branch review of things like waste charges and the privatisation of bin companies, and I think realistically speaking I would not foresee Donegal County Council taking over waste collection in the short to medium term. I don't think that's going to happen, and equally we can assume that we're not going to get a situation where it becomes a public amenity again from the state, and then the state imposes a bin charge. I don't think that's going to happen either. So what can happen if we take the bin charges to one side and say that that's for better or for worse, that's a structure that's going to remain with us for the foreseeable future? What else can be done, do you believe, by government and by council?
I think they could subsidise the bins to a certain extent, because this weight per bin is given out of... it's not the bin collection fault it's just the weight of some of the bins. I think if we can be accountable for spending a bit more, then they can go the extra mile when it suits them. So I think people are in a dire enough state without extra charges on bins and set up the water, and people don't pay for it, and rightly so.
Willie, it's a very interesting conversation, and again, I want to make sure that we acknowledge the fact that people involved in tidy towns and others are showing that level of civic pride and that level of civic involvement that unfortunately those who aren't those who are getting involved in, fly tipping of this nature. Now, I'm going to speak to somebody else, not from Buncrana, but from closer to Letterkenny, who I know is also very much involved in tidy towns and in this work. John Wilkie. John, good morning.
Good morning, Donal, and good morning, Winnie. Brilliant job, by the way, on your success of the weekend there. Fantastic.
And John, I know you've been out on the roads on the outskirts of Letterkenny now for several years, and you regularly post on social media some of the things that you find. I mean, you've been listening to Willie. I'm sure you've been nodding in approval and nodding in agreement with a lot of what Willie is saying.
If I would give him a clap on the back there for his fantastic work. It's just an ongoing scourge, Donal, all the time. I mean, I found microwave ovens, suites of furniture on the dual carriageway. I took 300 bags off the dual carriageway itself. Last year, now not so much this year, but it was very, very, very dirty. During the pandemic, there wasn't much cleaning going on,
Yeah. And you believe that, I mean, maybe it is time to have a look at things like the household charge and the tax system, and maybe it is time for government to maybe consider how it's going to sort of fund public amenities and how it's going to charge for them.
I think one is onto something there about the local property tax. We are at a rate as such. We are paying our bin charges. I mean, I see it up around where I live up here. It's just people are dumping bags of ashes now, bottles of wines, everything's out the window, nappies. Maybe it's time now for the council to say, right, maybe we'll have an amnesty every year. Get them to dump the rubbish. I mean, if you're in Northern Ireland, everything's free. I know you pay your rates.
Yeah.
You pay for your beds or everything, no matter what it is.
No, there's an argument that says there is a very good recycling centre just there off that new Business Park Road there, close to the former Primerica TCS building, that CETA area. There is a very good recycling centre there, and the charges there are not excessive for people who need to get rid of things like their microwaves and their fridges and so on and so forth.
Yeah, well, I think, to be honest, I think it should be free to the community. I think it should be free because it's going to. Well, let's try and encourage people, not to dump. Because I mean, look at how much it's costing the country, the towns. It's costing millions for cleaning. So it has to be some sort of look at that in the council. I mean, I've been talking to the council in different times.
And do you believe it is possible to make an argument to government that says if you incorporate recycling centres like that into general taxation and make them free for people to bring their recyclables to, the money you will then save on cleanups, bearing in mind a lot of the cleanup is being done by volunteers, by yourself, by the way, it has to be said, but you believe there is an argument that can be made that said the money you will save elsewhere will actually make it worthwhile to do that?
I think so, Donal, because it's costing millions, let's face it, millions and millions of pounds. If you encourage people, to do stuff, why does the council bring out maybe giving a prize for estates and stuff like that? The best road or the best. I know that through the tidy towns there is initiatives where people are encouraged to, keep their places clean and tidy. But the town, I mean, there's one road in Letterkenny, the Windy Hall Road, and I call it the Windy Hall. It's the Windy Hall Road.
Yes.
I call it that many bottles of wine on it.
Yeah, I walk it occasionally, and I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
I mean, I've seen typewriters. Not typewriters, but colour copiers and fans and everything's just fired out the windows. There has to be something done. We're talking about it now for years, but nothing seems to be Well, it seems to be done. Maybe somebody would take it on board.
Is it time then, we know, for instance, that recently there was a local government conference in Donegal. Is it time for the Environment Minister, for the councils, for the members, the officials, all to sit down and just say, look, how can we restructure our charges? How can we restructure our system? Because, I mean, you know, I'd say a lot of people will be very loath to tinker with the system too much now, given the controversy they've had in the past, particularly when they tried to bring in water charges. I'd say an awful lot of people are very, very loath to go next or near the actual topic of local government funding at the moment.
But if they were sensible now, look, I suppose we know we have to pay for water, it has to be cleaned, etc. But look, there has to be some better way forward than dumping rubbish out of a car window or a van or whatever. Yeah. So there has to be some sort of collective meeting or whatever it is of minds and say, listen, let's get this together and put everything together with your household charge, your water, bins, you know.
Mm-hmm.
They had an opportunity a way back to try and do that, but it didn't work out. Because nobody wants to pay for water. No, because it was through the taxation of the car way back. You know?
Yeah, and that's what happened, that when Jack Lynch abolished rates in 77, he said, well, that'll just be added on to car tax. Yeah, it'll be added on to car tax. Yeah.
No, it probably was the right time. I don't know if it'll be the right time now. They're talking about not cutting turf and all sorts of things. It just seems to be, there's no give back. I mean, I was talking to a few people in Kenny there a while back, and they're wealthy people now. And says there's nothing coming back from the council. They wouldn't even get their street like a salt put on it, you know?
Yeah.
There has to be something coming back. That'd be my thing. Give back, encourage people, and particularly people that are in households now that are we're getting tight. You know, people with their children, education, rates, or household charge, etc., etc.
Yeah. And finally, you do agree with what Willie said earlier then, that Willie's view is that there are some people who are fly tipping because they simply cannot afford to put tags on their bins. In your experience, do you believe that's part of the contributory issue to the 300 bags you picked up off the dual carriageway?
Look, some people, maybe it's education, I don't know, Donal, maybe it's just big habit, you know, but if you go to different countries like Amsterdam and these places, they're cleaner. You know, maybe we need to take a look at all that again, you know?
Yeah. John, thanks very much indeed for your contribution. Willie, you want to give the final word to yourself? Willie, you've been listening to John again. I mean, I think the two of you are going to be very much in agreement in what you're saying there.
Yeah, well, fair play to John and keeping that dual carriageway clean, all them bags. Commend him and give him a good pat on the back too. But you mentioned there, Donal, about fly tipping, and I think it costs the councils up and down the country an exorbitant amount of money, and I think they should look at that to see if one out another, and I think they definitely could be a bit more accountability for spending for this coolest county to continue with the tourists, because they see the huge difference in different countries. We are not a clean country.
Well, it's definitely food for thought. Willie McKinney, thank you very much indeed.
Thanks very much, Donal.
Thank you. That's Willie McKinney there, the chair of Tidy Towns in Buncrana. We'll take a short break. Back after these.
Text 086 60 25,000.
Attention all tractor and forklift owners. Donegal Tyres in Donegal Town is a leading supplier of agricultural and solid forklift tyres in the northwest, with a huge range available at competitive prices. Donegal Tyres can help you choose the correct tyre for your application, and we will come to you, so no downtime. Check out DonegalTyres.com or call 07497 21482. That's Donegal Tyres, Donegal Town, where you'll get a great deal.
You can do pretty much anything in just a few taps. Buy a car, book a holiday, and now you can even apply for a permanent TSB digital current account in-app in minutes. It's quick, it's mobile, it's the start of making your everyday banking easier. Now that's permanent support. Application in your sole name for over 18 personal customers and residents of the Republic of Ireland only. Qualifying criteria, terms and conditions apply. Permanent TSB PLC is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Are you worried about trees on your property? Northwest Forestry Services Ballybuffet are fully insured and have over 40 years experience in dangerous tree removal, tree felling, surgery and stump grinding. For peace of mind, call Northwest Forest Services Ballybuffet for a no obligation quotation on 91 32033.
Milford Tiles, wood flooring and bathware. Milford Retail Park now open. Large range of wall and floor tiles on display and in stock. Over 70 different laminate floors to suit every pocket. Tilers and wood fitters available. New bathware showroom now open. Milford Tiles, wood flooring and bathware. 083 091 0707.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union. Now offering mortgages with life cover provided at no additional cost. Letterkenny Credit Union, 9102127.
Caller says, I live in Inishowen where bins have been privatised. This private firm is weighing the black bin to calculate cost. I've been charged €20 for my bin. I know someone who was charged €30. Why is there not a standard bin label, and is this legal to do so? My understanding is it's a private system, so each company does. I know that pay by weight has been brought in, and as I understand it, what you get is an allowance over the course of the year. Now I pay by direct debit on an annual basis. It's not done by tags where I live, and there is now, I live in an urban area, and there is choice, and you have a choice of a couple of companies, so maybe that makes it a bit easier when you actually do have choice and there is competition in the system, and that's the ideal as far as the market force economists are concerned. Another caller says, do people not have enough to pay without paying rates? In Northern Ireland they only pay one charge and everything is lifted. Why is that not the norm? But that is rates. That's what that is. You know, if when you pay rates in Northern Ireland, you pay a rate to your local authority, and part of the money goes to your local council, part of the money goes to central government. There's a local rate and there's a what we'll call, for the sake of argument, a national rate, and that goes, part of it goes to Stormont, part of it goes to your local council, and that pays for the local services. But you know, we don't have that. We have a household tax here, which is a property tax rather than a household charge. It's a property tax that you pay on the actual property that you own, and that goes directly to central government, and then the local authority gets part of its local government funding from that tax. So, I mean, on the one hand, do people not have enough to pay without paying rates? There is an argument that says if you brought back a rates system, then that would take care of funding local government projects. Now, the other problem you have, of course, as everybody will say, is what then happens is after a while people will say, oh, that's not enough, we need more, and we need to bring in more charges. It's a difficult one, and it's a thorny one, and it's one that is going to be with us, I think, for quite some time. Let's go from Inishowen to West Donegal, and let's head over to the Rosses, and specifically to Dunlow, where we're going to speak to Mary Ward from the Mary from Dunlow Festival Committee. Mary, good morning.
Good morning, Donal.
Mary, an important meeting taking place tonight in a Temple Crone in Dunlow to discuss the future of the festival. Where are we at the moment with regards to Mary from Dunlow post-pandemic?
Well, we have a programme for 2022 festival, but we need volunteers to implement the programme. And that's what the meeting is about tonight, is to try and get volunteers. Our festival runs for 10 days, and it's a 10-day programme, and it takes a lot of commitment. But what we want to assure people is we only want people to commit to 1 or 2 events, not to the whole 10 days. So we would like people to come along tonight and to pledge themselves as volunteers to run certain events, which we have already in the programme. The programme practically was set up from 2020, which will be tweaked a bit now for 2022, and we're calling on volunteers to come and help us to implement that programme and to continue the Mary from Dunlow. Without the pandemic, this would have been the 55th Mary from Dunlow, and we think that volunteerism and the contributions, the financial contributions from the local traders has been the backbone of the Mary from Dunlow Festival. And a number of people, least of all the traders of Dunlow, would like to see that continue.
I think it's happening in a lot of events and a lot of organisations. I think what happened over the past 2 years is momentum was lost. And, you know, something would have happened every year and people were in a cycle, and you got ready for something in September and you did it in March, or you started getting ready in January and you put it on in July and August, as would be the case in yours. And the preparations would start long before January, I suspect. But there would have been a momentum that would have kept going over the years. That's now been broken for 2 years, and people are kind of out of sync. They're out of habit. And you're almost getting to a situation now where you have to try and re-establish all those habits again.
Exactly. And what we're really looking for is young people. We want young people to come on board and be involved in it. We feel that sometimes maybe within our festival we fall down on the 15 to, the late teen group. And we would like them to come on and bring their thoughts to the festival so that we can go forward, with everybody. It was a very inclusive festival.
Can you tell us something of the events that have been planned? What can you tell us about what people can expect? As you say, this is pretty much the 2020 programme that's been retweaked and refashioned, as it were, for 2022. What can you tell us about the programme?
Well, indeed, we have Country Sunday, which has been organised. The music is being organised by Conor O'Donnell, and that's been sponsored by McCafferty's Bar and Donal. And of course, our own Daniel will be making his traditional guest appearance on Country Sunday. We have Law Gaelic, which will be again organised by Carol Doherty. We have our Mary's pageant, and we'd have the Crowning Cabaret will be performed about Daniel. But as I speak about Daniel, I would like to tell you about something that we're really, really thrilled about. During the week of the festival, there'll be a night of inspirational music with Daniel O'Donnell in aid of Padraig's journey, and that will be on Friday, the 29th of July at St. Cronus Church in Donal. And before your switchboard lights up, I have all the details of where tickets can be available for that night. And it promises to be a really inspirational night, and we're really looking forward to it. We have our Gala Ball, our Crowning Cabaret, and the Carnival Parade. And we have, this year, again, we're focusing on family-friendly events to have plenty of events midweek for children.
And there is still an interest in the Mary from Dunloe Festival. Sometimes people will start saying, oh, it's a little bit outdated, the whole idea of the pageant and so on. But there is always something new. And the people of Dunloe do feel a real affinity to this festival and do feel a real affinity with the Marys.
Oh, indeed they do. And we have more Marys than ever this year. In fact, we now have a waiting list for next year for Marys. And we've got 5 Marys from North America this year. We have Glasgow and Edinburgh, London, and then our Irish Marys. We have Donegal, who's already selected, India Kennedy from Donegal Town. We have Belfast, Wild Atlantic Way, who's Sinead Hart from County Sligo. Our Belfast is Caroline Galvin. And all in all, we expect to have 18 Marys, and the interest in the Mary end of things has absolutely been phenomenal this year.
And I'm sure there's a lot of people who are really looking forward to getting the boost back into the local economy again, because traders will have missed it and the entertainment venues will have missed it. And indeed, I'm sure the people of Dunloe will have missed the buzz on the streets over that holiday weekend, end of July into August. I mean, there's always a buzz there in Dunloe, and I'm sure people would have missed that for the past 2 years.
Absolutely. And they're I think, the businesses in particular are looking forward to it. And as I said, they've always been the backbone of the festival. Like, the business people in Dunloe contribute the most in financial terms to the festival. And I'm sure that will continue. And we hope to put a great programme together. But we have a great programme. It's just implementing that programme now that we hope tonight to get enough people to implement the programme.
About how many people are you looking for? Because, I mean, I know, having been involved in a few festivals and things myself over the years, I mean, it's almost whatever figure you think it is, at the very least, you multiply it by 2. And that, I'm sure that really holds for Mary from Dunloe as well.
Well, as I said, what we would be hoping for this year is that individuals would take one event and run that in its entirety, and that they would have a team, that they would be in position to put a team together that would help them, whether it's a lot of things in the festival are hidden, like roads have to be closed off, barriers have to be put up and then taken away afterwards, and it's people to do those type of things. And as I said again, we're not looking for people to commit for 10 days. We're just asking people to commit to one event.
And anyone who believes they can help with this, the meeting is on in Untitled Chapter in Dunloe tonight.
And in relation to the Daniel concert, because I'm sure an awful lot of people will be interested.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for further information and ticket sales, they can follow on Facebook Padraig's Journey for continued treatment in America. And credit card sales are available via trisha.kep@yahoo.com. And it's a ticketed event only. Yeah. But tickets will be going on sale on Sunday, the 1st of May, after Mass in Kincastle, Anagra and Dunloe churches.
Mary Ward from the Mary from Dunloe Festival Committee. Thanks indeed for speaking to us today. That meeting is on in the Temple Crone tonight at 6 p.m. Mary, thank you indeed, and we wish you and your committee and of course all the volunteers all the best with regards to that. This is the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio. Caller says, I attended the Donegal Armagh game yesterday. We were on a side terrace below the commentary boxes. There was a group of Armagh supporters, and to put it lightly, their behaviour was a disgrace. They were shouting abuse at one particular Donegal player and at the referee. As far as I'm concerned, McCool Park would need to take a look at the stewards and where they're located during matches. This particular group should have been asked to leave the grounds, so says a caller. Now, we spoke over the course of our newspaper review about the Fusion Bistro in Killybegs, and I'm joined on the line by co-owner Linda Boyle. Linda, good morning.
Morning, Donal. How are you?
Very well indeed, thank you. The last time we spoke, we were a little more upbeat. You were looking forward to getting back into business when restrictions were being eased, and we're looking forward to the day when you could get back on track. Sadly, the current climate is very different.
It is very different. It's kind of been a perfect storm, really, of between COVID and now just the cost of living and the cost of trying to run a business has just become unsustainable, really.
And it's kind of a double whammy, because on the one hand, the costs on yourselves are increasing, so you have to try and absorb more costs, and I'm sure you want to absorb them without passing on those increases to your customers, but it's going to prove impossible after a while to do that. On the other level, your customers are also feeling the pinch because they're getting increased costs at home, they're getting increased costs with their car, they're increased costs with their fuel, and maybe your customers are less likely to go out as often as they may have done because they can't afford to. So from that point of view, extra costs on yourself is going to be pushing up the pressure on yourself. Extra costs on your potential customers mean they're going to be going out less, and everyone is losing as a result.
Yeah, that's it. You know, it's come to the stage where we tried to hold off putting up prices, but we had to put them up because everything has just rocketed, especially since January. You know, like that, you know, at the end of the day, we have a mortgage, we have a family, we know how hard it is, and it's just people don't have the money as much as they want to support you and try their best. You know, the way things are going, especially for somebody like us, it's just casual dining. You're going to have to charge more than what people are really able to pay.
Yeah, and people would have travelled to eat in your establishments as well, and, you know, people would have travelled distances,
great
you know.
Support, yeah.
And, you know, someone perhaps is not going to be as likely now to make a car journey in the days of current fuel prices. And I mean, you know, they were at one point regularly over €2 per litre, you know, and that was going to make people think twice before travelling.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think at the minute, the day of going out for a spin to pass the days, you know, in the nice weather or whatever, it's just not happening. You can see it on the roads; they're a lot quieter, and you know, it's just become too hard to try and keep going. And you know, at the end of the day, you can't keep putting yourself in further and further into debt.
Yeah. Do you think the day will come when perhaps you'll be able to come back and reopen some former premises in Dunloe, or are you even thinking that far ahead at the moment?
At the moment, no. It's just try and get through this week and get over the heartbreak of having to close down, and just try and regroup. And we'll probably run our food truck for the summer and just see from there.
Yeah.
At the minute, it's just kind of, there's no decisions being made either way. It's just try to, as I say, get through the next few days. And
yeah, and is there potentially a question mark over the food truck as well? Because, I mean, you know, a lot of people believe that to be one of the best eating establishments in Donegal.
No, well, ideally you'd like to be able to keep it going, hopefully, you know. If we can get a small amount of staff together and run it efficiently as possible. You know, it's at the minute it's hard to kind of think ahead. I suppose it's just a wee bit, everything's feeling a wee bit bruised.
Yeah, but the shack is going to be there for the summer.
Yes, hopefully that'll be in Teelan again. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I suppose it was just really kind of wanted to raise awareness really of how much people are struggling and how hard it is for small businesses at the minute.
Yeah. I mean, it's a sad thing to hear because, I mean, having spoken to yourself before, I know you've spoken to Greg on the programme as well over the months and years indeed. I mean, you know, there was an enthusiasm there for the bistro, there was an enthusiasm there for the customer, and you wanted to be providing food and people wanted to eat there. And unfortunately, as you said, we now have this perfect storm where costs are hitting everybody. And sadly, I think this is not the first of these kind of stories we're going to be covering, and I think we're going to be seeing more and more of this, sadly, in the coming weeks and months.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's you know, there's so much unknown ahead, and you don't know like what's the summer season going to be like this year. Or is there going to be the same amount of people around? And then you have to face September where the VAT rates goes back up again, which is going to be another added cost that you're going to have to put somewhat on your customers. And you know, it's just all it's a bit of a nightmare at the minute, and people are just under, and every walk of life, people are under so much pressure, and it's a horrible situation, really.
So the bistro stays open until Saturday next, April 30th, and at that point then it closes permanently?
Yeah, we gave it a week because we do have, you know, there's people have vouchers and stuff. We want to try and let people use them at all possible. They'll still be accepted in the food truck anyway, but, you know, just give people a chance to use them, and then that's it, Saturday evening, unfortunately.
Linda, we wish you well, and you know, all the staff, and obviously, and I know you're very thoughtful of them at the moment, and the fact that people are losing jobs over this, and people will not have employment opportunities over the summer as a result of this, and you know, our thoughts with all involved. And look, we wish you the best, and may things go well with the food truck over the summer, and hopefully things will get better as time goes on.
Hopefully, please God, hopefully. Thanks for talking to me.
Linda, it's been a pleasure, and thank you indeed. And hopefully, as we say, there's a better future ahead. But for now, Linda Boyle, co-owner of Fusion Bistro in Killybegs, thanks very much indeed.
Thanks. Okay, take care.
This summer, holidays are go with Jet2 Holidays and Atlantic Travel. So go discover our amazing destinations with 22 kilograms of baggage included. Ask the experts at Atlantic Travel about your next Jet2 holiday by calling 074 912 6193 and book now with just a £60 deposit per person. Jet2 Holidays. Package holidays you can trust, subject to availability and conditions.
Bí goidid the air grid obrihir na hangi national electras an Carol Laird the Vina Baltania and Austin and Clan Re Letter Cannon. Agus an Kugel Laird the Vina Baltania and Austin and Abbey Belagun and all. The high show bohord and bubble marger left funny air grid. Corrina shown the bohor show all as their foil, we US gradihe, efak tulachta funny tea. Jones ear estia, scheming their micro yen and a bubble, agus tohi and anu ingun all. Van Clarid in the show in the bohor shaw, poor quarter air grid .ie/Toshi shipping. Air grid, extollar funny nis glenia don tohi.
Are you thinking of making the switch to electric? Come visit us in iMotors, Donegal's SEAI EV Dealer of the Year 2022. We will answer any questions and help you make the switch. With our award-winning lineup of EVs available now, come visit us at iMotors in Letterkenny and Malin.
Highland Radio weather updates with Ireland West Airport. Gatwick's back. You can now fly daily to London Gatwick with Aer Lingus, their perfect gateway to explore South London. Ireland West Airport. You're flying.
Mainly dry with a mix of cloud and sunny spells today. Isolated showers will develop in the afternoon. Highest temperatures 11 to 13 degrees Celsius in light to moderate easterly winds. Mostly dry tonight with clear spells, just some isolated light showers. Some mist and fog patches developing in a light easterly or variable breeze. It'll be quite cold actually with lowest overnight temperatures 1 to 4 degrees Celsius. A touch of grass frost possible. Tomorrow largely dry and bright with long sunny spells. Again some scattered showers in the afternoon. Top temperatures 12 to 14 in a light to moderate easterly breeze. And that's what Met Éireann are saying at the moment.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, offering low-rate car loans with fast approval. Apply online at letterkennycu.ie or in office today.
We were speaking earlier about the funding of services like bins, refuse collection, recycling, water and so on and so forth. Some people saying they believed that recycling and waste collection should be free and provided under public service once again. And then the issue raised itself, can we bring that back into public administration without adding some form of charge and some sort of local rate? We do have a property tax, but we don't have a household charge, we don't have water charges, and we would have to go really from property tax, which is levied on property which is owned, to some form of household tax or rates, or call it what you will, on local homes in order to pay for such services. Now, joined on the line by Jared. Jared, good morning.
Good morning.
Jared, you have an interesting take on this. You're effectively saying, look, I wouldn't mind paying a little bit more, but, and it is a major but, you would need a guarantee that services would improve dramatically if that money was paid.
Yes. Now, I looked at the Dutch system there. The Dutch, they actually pay 35% tax on all their earnings. And they get free medical, they get funds, everything done. If they want to get a mortgage, they get 125% mortgage. It's just unbelievable what they get, and they're a lower rate of pay than we are in this country.
But it's a lower rate of pay, but it's a higher rate of tax.
Yes. But they're getting more benefits from what they get.
Yeah, I mean, and there's two. I mean, you're told when you look at sort of political systems and government levels, you can have a low tax market economy where effectively you pay very little money to the government, and the theory is that you pay minimum money to the government, then you have services provided through the private sector in a spirit of competition, and you can choose the service that best meets your need at the most efficient price, and the market will regulate all that. On the other hand, you have what you have in Scandinavia. A lot of people will talk about how in Scandinavia you've got fantastic public services, and it also tells you that you'll pay €10 for a pint because of the high level of excise you have on things like alcohol and the high levels of tax you have, and they're high social provision but also high tax economies. Now the question is, it seems a lot of people are saying, well, what we want in Ireland is we want high wage, low tax and high public service at the same time.
And Donal, we are already on the high wage. Now you ask all your listeners there how they feel about the wage. Are they on a high rate or a low rate compared to Europe? And they'll all say, oh, we feel very bad, we're very low rate compared to the rest of Europe. We are actually the second highest minimum wage within Europe. And if government gets their proposals made, they're chatting about making up to €15 per hour, that makes us the highest paid country in Europe.
Yeah.
So we need to open our eyes. Our social welfare and our benefits are some of the highest in Europe. If we cross the border just over a few feet into the north, the social welfare payment, the payment is around about €200 a week. Would that be right, Donal?
I believe it's there. I don't know. The figure I have in my head is about 204, but that could be wrong now. I can't stand over that.
Over a couple of miles across the water, the equivalent is approximately €100 a week. It's around about £78 sterling a week. Our neighbours in Derry and Strabane are getting paid for their social welfare payments.
But are we comparing like with like there in terms of the actual payments that are being made?
Well, it's close to the economy of scale. Yeah. It's like we have a lot of people giving out. I know it's just really strange if I'm going away from the subject, but you take we're chatting about the price of power. The price is going up, everything in Ireland here now at the minute. Right? If I asked you how many companies are supplying electricity to the consumer in Ireland, could you tell me?
Off the top of my head, I would say there's major providers. There's 4 or 5, I think.
We have 14 providers in Ireland.
Oh.
Right. Now, divide that, we have a population of 5.02 million in Ireland. Could you divide that by 14 and tell me what you get?
Uh-huh.
Right, because I was brought up in the retail sector, and we're always taught physically, like, you can only take so many slices out of a cake, right? Our government's going to be telling Europe and telling how big a country we are. On a geographical scale, we're 2/3 the size of the UK. Would you agree with me there?
Yeah, give or take.
Right. Our population is only 1/13 the size of the UK. There is 66.7 million people living in the UK. Right?
Yeah.
Now, how many power companies are supplying power to the consumer in the UK?
Well, I know a lot of them have went under in the past year or so, so I think that's that's reduced dramatically. Actually, a number have gone under.
Yes,
if I
so
recall
just from
correctly.
95 down to 37.
Yeah.
Right. Divide 66.7 million by 37. That gives you roughly 1.3 million people. When you divide Ireland's 5.02 million by 14, it gives you roughly 370,000. So therefore, it costs each power company 4 times as much to do business in Ireland.
Yeah.
Right? And if we divide it again by TDs versus MPs, each TD roughly represents 370,000 people. In the UK, each MP represents 1.2 million.
Right.
So you can see where our spiraling costs in this country has come out of. I personally would pay more tax if I'm getting value for my money. I have no problems with it. I'll go back to the Dutch system as to on earlier on. Paying a higher tax, if Donal, you wish to go on and buy a house, the bank has no problem giving you a loan of 125%. And Donal can't pay his mortgage. He goes back to the bank, he hands back the keys, and he starts from scratch.
Right. Now, and when you say there's an extra 5 to 10% in tax in somewhere like Holland, where they will pay a base rate of 35%, does a proportion of that automatically go to local authorities, or is all that administered on a national basis? How does the structure of the system work? Yeah.
It's through the system. We need to look at it, like our system needs to change in Ireland. And it doesn't matter, we have no good leaders coming through. And I know there's a lot of parties who like to say the strong people are going to make change. We have no good leaders coming forward. We have what we would have called yes men, who will agree with anything to get their vote.
Yeah. Now, I did have an uncle who was involved in local politics in London, and he once said the biggest problem you had in Ireland was you had no workable local government system, and you had TDs who effectively were working as councillors, whereas in the UK he believed you had local councillors who ran the council and your MPs made national policy and passed national laws.
Yes. The problem we have there is we can't afford both. We're going to have to figure out a system. Like, you take one constituency in the UK, say like Manchester.
Yeah.
That gobbles Ireland up twice.
It's certainly an interesting point of view, Gerard, and I'm sure it'll get a lot of people thinking, and obviously if people want to make their views known, they certainly can. Time has beaten us, but Gerard, it's been interesting to hear what you have to say, and thank you very much indeed.
No problem at all.
That's Gerard, and that's Gerard's perspective on the situation. Have a think about that. It's very interesting. News with Michaela coming up after these.
Are you a landowner in the River Derg area? Do you want to find out who can provide agricultural services such as weed wiping, for rush control and riverside fencing? The Source to Tap project is holding a free agricultural contract fair near Caleator Castle Derg at St Davog's GAA Club, Ahiarn, on Thursday the 28th of April from 11 to 4 p.m. Come along to meet local contractors and find out what services they can offer to help improve your farm business and make your farm water friendly. The Source to Tap project is supported by the European Union's Interreg 5A programme.
There's amazing deals every week at Watson Hire in Letterkenny. Great specials in tools, hardware and homeware. If you're a tradesperson or you're doing a one-off job, you'll find everything from power tools to hand tools and paint to work clothing. For great weekly deals and a great selection, visit Watson Hire at Kiltoy, Letterkenny. For more information, visit the Facebook page or see watsonhire.ie.
Are you troubled with painful varicose veins? Restore your confidence with vein treatment at Kingsbridge Private Hospital, Letterkenny. Our vascular consultants offer assessment, advice and options on the latest treatments available. So why wait? Say goodbye to varicose veins and hello to healthy legs. With appointments available, why not book your consultation today? Visit kingsbridgeprivatehospital.ie to find out more. Because life matters.
Calling artists and creative arts workers. The Basic Income for the Arts pilot scheme is now open. A groundbreaking initiative where 2,000 participants will get €325 a week over 3 years to focus on their creative practice. The Irish Government, valuing the arts, supporting creativity. Go to gov.ie/basicincomearts.
Live, on air, online and on the Highland Radio app. This is Highland Radio News.
Good morning, I'm Michaela Clark with the news at 10 o'clock. Micheál Martin says we have to do more when it comes to providing for Ukrainian refugees. The Taoiseach was speaking yesterday at the new refugee centre in Mill Street, County Cork. Around 100 Ukrainian families are being housed in the centre, which he says is an example of Ireland's innovative approach to the crisis. The Taoiseach insists the country's humanitarian efforts will continue.
We're part of a European-wide response. And first and foremost, we're not a military power. The thing we can do best is humanitarian. And to, as I said, it's a shared humanity, and we have to do everything we can to protect women and children in the first instance, and vulnerable people. And that's what we're going to do, along with our European colleagues.
Investigations are continuing after a motorcyclist was seriously injured in a crash in South Donegal yesterday. Gardaí attended the scene of the single vehicle collision in the Trummon West area of Loughy at around 2:40 p.m. A motorcyclist, a man in his 50s, was taken to Sligo University Hospital for treatment to his injuries, which are understood to be serious. A technical examination of the scene was carried out. A Killybegs restaurant owner has been forced to close their doors due to never-ending cost increases. Fusion Bistro has made the difficult decision to cease trading next Saturday. Co-owner Linda Boyle says overheads and staff shortages have become unsustainable. She told today's 9 till noon show that their decision to close is a sign of the current climate.
At the minute, the day of going out for a spin to pass the days, in the nice weather or whatever, it's just not happening. You can see it on the roads, they're a lot quieter, and it's just become too hard to try and keep going. And, at the end of the day, you can't keep putting yourself in further and further into debt.
Over €14 million is to be spent on rejuvenating marine infrastructure in Donegal. Donegal County Council has received the funding under the Brexit Adjustment Reserve. A total of 15 projects worth over €16 million in the county are to benefit, including works at Rathmullen Pier, Burton Port and Mahary. Meanwhile, €8.8 million has been announced to construct a breakwater at Greencastle. Minister for Agriculture, Food and the Marine, Charlie McConlogue, says the funding will help support fishing and coastal communities living in a post-Brexit economy.
Overall, what we see is 15 projects across the county, bringing our piers and harbours up to the standard that is really required, ensuring significant projects which have been waiting and funding for a number of years, finally getting funded. And I look forward now to working with Donegal County Council. We've done really strong work in relation to putting these applications together to ensure that these projects can actually follow through over the coming period of time, and that we see the significant investment make a real difference to the fishing community and indeed our coastal communities right throughout the county.
It seems Minister Eamon Ryan is rowing back on proposed new laws to ban the sale and distribution of turf. He now says it won't apply to rural communities of fewer than 500 people, but will instead focus on commercial and retail activities. There have been clashes between the coalition parties over the issue, but Minister Ryan says it won't be a case of inspectors going into cottages and sifting through the grate. Councillor Michael McClafferty, who last week claimed he was prepared to go to jail over the ban on turf, says this latest stance is a waste of time. He says Minister Ryan is completely out of touch with rural Ireland.
The commercial end of it that he's referring to, he's clearly referring to anybody that's selling turf. Now that's whoever they may be, the people through the various businesses that are selling turf. To sell turf, Michaela, for a living, it's a way of life for them. To do it, to pay their mortgage, build their houses, feed their families, run their cars, etc. so on. So that will be the only source of income is turf. Unfortunately, Eamon Ryan and a lot of the civil servants in Dublin are totally out of touch with what's going on in rural Ireland.
Weather now mainly dry today with a mix of cloud and sunny spells. Isolated showers will develop this afternoon. Highest temperatures of 11 to 13 degrees. That's all from Highland Radio News for now. We'll be back with an update again at 11 o'clock. Until then, good morning. The obituary notices for this Monday morning, April the 25th. The death has taken place of James Maguire, 36, Summerhill Court, Strabane, reposing at Quigley's Funeral Home, Strabane, tomorrow evening from 5:30, with removal at 6:30 to St Mary's Church, Melmount. Requiem Mass on Wednesday morning at 10 o'clock. Interment afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. The Requiem Mass can be viewed live via the parish webcam. The death has taken place of Pete Conley, Drumahay Park, Ardra. His remains will repose at Chauvelin's Funeral Home, Sandfield, this evening from 7 until 9 o'clock and tomorrow evening from 5 o'clock, followed by removal to the Church of the Holy Family, Ardra, arriving at 7:30. Funeral Mass on Wednesday morning at 11 o'clock, with burial afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. The death has taken place of Eddie McGarrigle, 17, Melmount Garden, Strabane. Remains are reposing at his home. Funeral leaving his home on Tuesday morning at 11:25 for Requiem Mass in St Mary's Church, Melmount at 12 noon. Interment afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Donations in lieu of flowers please to Muscular Dystrophy, Kerv Quigley Funeral Directors. The Requiem Mass can be viewed live via the parish webcam. The death has taken place of Hugh Benedict McGarrigle, 11, Carrickley Road, Strabane, and formerly of 7, Butcher Street, Strabane. His remains will be reposing at his son Anthony's home, 6, Hillmount Grove, Strabane, this afternoon from 12 noon. Funeral leaving his son's home tomorrow afternoon at 1:25 for Requiem Mass in St Mary's Church, Melmount at 2 o'clock. Interment afterwards in the Sacred Heart Cemetery, Derry Road. Donations in lieu of flowers please to St Vincent de Paul, Kerv Quigley Funeral Directors. The Requiem Mass can be viewed live via the parish webcam. The death has taken place of Bridgeen Doherty, née Farn, Grove Cottages, Muff. Requiem Mass will be celebrated at the Church of the Sacred Heart, Muff, tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock. Interment afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. The death has occurred of Kathleen Rutherford, née Shields, Cloughfin, St Johnston. House is strictly private please. Funeral leaving her late residence, Cloughfin, St Johnston, tomorrow morning at 10:30, going to St Bathan's Church, St Johnston for 11 o'clock, a Requiem Mass with burial afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Family flowers only please. Donations in lieu of desire to the Donegal Hospice, care of any family member or Kelly's Funeral Directors. The death has taken place of Tony Kelly, 6, Drummond Court, Strabane, and formerly of Main Street Convoy. His remains are reposing at his home. Funeral leaving his home tomorrow morning at 9:25 for Requiem Mass in St Mary's Church, Melmount at 10 o'clock. Interment afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Donations in lieu of flowers please to the Foyle Hospice, care of Quigley Funeral Directors. House private from 11 p.m. until 11 a.m. The Requiem Mass can be viewed live via the parish webcam. The death has occurred of Helen McLaughlin, née McDade, Fairview, Bray Road, Burnfoot, and formerly of Glassalt, Carndonagh. Her remains are reposing at her late residence. Removal tomorrow morning at 10:15 to St Maurice Church, Vaughan for 11 o'clock Requiem Mass, followed by interment in the adjoining cemetery. Helen's Requiem Mass can be viewed on churchservices.tv. Family time please from 11 o'clock tonight. Family flowers only please. Donations in lieu of desire to the Donegal Hospice, care of any family member or Murphy Funeral Directors. The death has taken place of John B. Coyle, Church Terrace, Moville. His remains are reposing at his home. Funeral from his home tomorrow morning at 11:30 for 12 o'clock Requiem Mass in St Pius X Church, Moville, followed by cremation at Lakelands Crematorium, Cavan at 5 o'clock. Family flowers only please. Donations if desired to iCare, care of any family member. And the death has taken place of Anne McGee, Ardenskey Door, originally Glasgow. Her remains will repose at Rorty's Funeral Home, Derrybeg, today from 4 until 8 o'clock. Rosary tonight at 8 o'clock. Funeral Mass in St Patrick's Church, Mina Wheel, tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock, with interment afterwards in Maharagown Cemetery. The funeral mass can be viewed live on the Kieran Rorty Funeral Director Facebook page. For more details, including any family health guidelines for wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.com.
The 9 till noon show is...
This is your guide to smart glasses. Smart glasses often look like regular glasses, and some of them have built-in cameras. Even if you don't wear smart glasses, it's helpful to know what it looks like when someone who is wearing them is taking a photo or video. The person wearing smart glasses usually has to take an action, such as tapping the capture button to activate the camera. When the smart glasses are recording, you'll see an LED light on the frame. So now you know a bit more about smart glasses.
A message from Meta and SELR Luxottica.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, with monster loans available up to €60,000 for all occasions. Visit letterkennycu.ie.
It's the second hour of the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio with Donal Kavanagh until 12 noon today, as the name suggests. You can call us 074 91 25000, 0035374 91 25000 if you're outside the dialing area. 086 60 25000 for your text or WhatsApp messages. Comments at highlandradio.com if you wish to send us an email. And if you want to interact, of course, and watch the programme, you can do so. We are on Facebook Live, and we are also on the Highland Radio YouTube channel. Just some of your comments before we go to bingo. There was a shocking interview on RTE last week. The engineer was caught in a time warp and couldn't see past Mica and Freeze Thaw. Caller says the discussion has moved on, the real problem of iron sulfides, but the engineer, like the government, doesn't seem to want to go there. The caller says the engineer that was interviewed was no friend to affected homeowners, and it's not surprising that some of his engineer colleagues are sceptical of his comments. He comes across more of a government spokesperson than anything else. No need to demolish, just plaster up and to keep the rain out. Cheap and nasty is the government solution, so says our caller. Caller says we gather the rubbish along our road on a regular basis. It's mostly masks and takeaway tea and coffee cups. Caller says, can you mention that today is International Parental Alienation Awareness Day, and a number of events are happening in Ireland online, including a webinar with the founder of the world's first ever domestic abuse refuge, and the launch of a video on YouTube called Coping Positively with Parental Alienation. Details can be found on the Alienated Children First Facebook page. Good morning. Caller says anything with a plug is free in all recycling places, free back to the retailer you bought it from. Now, I do know under the WEEE protocol, that's the WEEE, if you are buying an electrical item to replace something you already have, you can bring the old one to the retailer, and that will then be accepted over the counter. And indeed, I did that recently, actually. I bought a new air fryer and brought an old one down, and that's exactly what I did in the place I bought the new air fryer from. You can certainly do that. I do believe if you bring a piece of electronic equipment to a recycle centre, one of the centres in each of the municipal districts in Donegal, you will, and please feel free to contradict me if I'm wrong, but you will pay a charge if you just bring it to the recycle centre. But certainly under the WEEE protocol, if you're buying something new, you can bring an old one and get that taken in free. Caller says every house on my road doesn't use the bin. Another caller says in Spain the council pick up all the garbage and all bins marked large. Electrical components left there now. Where can we go with empty paint cans? I know, and I recall there was a discussion in council about this. I know they are speaking about getting a paint recycling system service going through the recycling centres in Donegal. I know it was being discussed. It was Councillor Jimmy Kavanagh, if I recall correctly, had it up as a motion for discussion at a recent meeting, and I know the council is actively working on that, and we're hoping to see some form of announcement very soon. John Wilkie of Tidy Towns, when we spoke to him earlier, said he calls the Windy Hole Road the Windy Hole Road because of the number of wine bottles lying on it. Caller says there are wine bottles and whiskey bottles, sadly, on every road. Caller says, all the electrical goods should be recycled free. I have an old light which I have to pay to recycle. This facility should be free to ensure I get rid of it in the proper manner. If I was on a low income, I know I would not have paid to recycle it. So says one of our callers. Now, I know many people will be anxiously awaiting news of today's numbers, so grab your books, grab your pencils if you play Highland Radio NCBI Radio Bingo. Without further ado, I will hand you over to Canis.
It's time for NCBI Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Monday the 25th of April. You're playing on the green sheet. The reference number is S1. It's game number 17. The numbers are 23, 66, 1, 60, 65, 12, 9, 69, 78, and finally 52. Phone your claim to 9104833 before 8 tonight, leaving your name, contact number and the name of the shop where you purchased your book, and we'll call you back the next working day. Get all your NCBI Bingo information at highlandradio.com.
Aldi, home of amazing grocery 6 offers, including multigrain sliced pan was $1.09, now 79 cent. Brannan's deli style carved ham was $2.29, now $1.49. Brannan's chicken or turkey slices was $1.99, now $1.49. Irish mature white cheddar was $1.95, now $1.49. And kids water 10 pack 250ml was $2.79, now $2.49. That's the groceries done. Now who's making the pack lunches? Aldi, every day amazing.
Print your First Communion photos at McGee's Chemist in Letterkenny and you'll get a free large 10x8 photo of your choice. With photos from just 12 cents each, you can print in store or use the McGee's Photo Prints app and have them delivered direct to your door. Preserve all your best First Communion moments or great memories from any big occasion with McGee's Chemist, Main Street, Letterkenny, where the best costs less.
Thinking of going green? At B&S Credit Union Ballybuffet, it has never been easier. We will help you reduce your energy cost with our lower than ever green loan rate. Available for all home improvements that bring energy efficiency such as insulation, heating systems and solar panels. Visit bnscu.ie/green loan or free phone B&S Credit Union at 1-800-290-390. Loans are subject to approval. Terms and conditions apply. B&S Credit Union Limited is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Get your weekly shop at M&S. Check out remarkable value with over 100 everyday products at really surprising prices, like pasta for just 50 cents, or fresh market specials, seasonal veg, all at 50 cents. Plus, we've lowered the prices on the products we know you love to buy, from our traceable lean Irish minced beef to rich tea biscuits. So pop in today and enjoy great quality at prices you love, with all these ways to save at M&S Food. Subject to availability, see in store for details.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union, now offering MyCU current account and debit MasterCard, bringing full banking features, delivered with the same local trustworthy service of your credit union.
The impact of mica and defective blocks on homeowners in Donegal has been much discussed on this programme, on the news, in the local press and right across the northwest for many, many years now at this point. But one issue that isn't always addressed is the impact it's having on mica families in terms of the stress and the worry that they are facing. They're facing worry that their house is crumbling down around them. They're facing worry about money. They're facing worry about what will redress schemes include. They're facing worry about when can they get applications in, when can they get work done, when can they satisfy themselves that their home is safe. And with that in mind, the Inishowen Development Partnership is offering resilience training to try and help the families deal with the stresses that are involved. Joined by Project Manager Denise McCool. Denise, good morning.
Good morning, Donal. How are you?
Very, very well indeed. Thank you, Denise. Now, obviously, Denise, there is a huge argument and discussion and ongoing debate about redress schemes and about money and about the political level of mica. We're not going there. What we're going to focus specifically on this morning is what can be done to just help people deal with the stress that this is causing themselves personally and in their everyday lives.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, from our point of view, the Inishowen Family Action Network and Inishowen Development Partnership have come together, that's the community sector and the statutory sector as well, to look at ways we can support individuals and families that are facing MICA and the stress that is bringing on families. I think a lot of people, the first step is to recognise that there is stress there, and then to start to understand how that stress is impacting on you individually and as a family as well. I think it's some of these things that we there's so much awareness around the campaign side of things, and that's really important. But this is just about more on the human level, at inside the closed doors in the evening, and how people are feeling. We've had schools and other organisations that work with us who are saying that they can see it within young people in the school. Everybody's trying to protect everybody else. It's kind of, as you know, we have the counselling service as well. And it's across the county, obviously, too. So we're working with the Children and Young People Services Committee, which is a county-wide structure with agencies around the table who are also very aware of the impact of MICA on families and individuals. So it's really trying to give appropriate responses to what people need and at this time.
I'm sure too it must be causing tension within families, because when you have a group of people under one roof, if every one of them is worried, if every one of them is stressed, that stress is going to come out, and in many cases, sadly, it's going to come out and be manifest with the people you love the most and with the people with whom you spend most time, and they're probably the ones who are going to get the brunt of it.
Isn't that the nature of all stress? In some ways, it's the ones you love that get it most. I know a while back we did a podcast with Coleman Noctor, and it's still available online. But within that, families talked, different families at different stages in their own, life cycle as well, talked about how it's affected them personally, how it's affected the children, and how, one part, the parents are thinking they're protecting, not talking about it in front of the children. Other times people are talking about it, and knowing every family is different. I suppose that's the first thing, but knowing what's the best way for our family to talk about this, and when it's good not to talk about it, because sometimes it's a space to not have the conversation, to be talking about other things and not letting it take over people's lives, because it has, for many families, been all-consuming, because it's such, your home is your castle, it's your safe space, and it's been totally impacted by this whole MICA situation. So it's allowing people spaces and places to come together and have the conversation at a level that they're comfortable at, but also to move beyond it and say, okay, this is a long-term situation we're in. It's, and of course the stress of form filling and all that is still there. It doesn't take that away, but it's just about coping mechanisms for families and for individuals. So this is very practical, hands-on type of approach that we're doing with families, and it's been recognised internationally, this model, this community resilience model as well. So it's
how important have the big demonstrations in Dublin been? Because I got the impression, certainly speaking to people who were there and watching the coverage and looking at the pictures, I got the feeling it was almost like taking the valve off a pressure cooker, that those demonstrations allowed a lot of people to get a lot of the stress off their system by blowing whistles, by waving signs, by feeling that they were doing something. And I think I think history may very well show that those two major demonstrations in Dublin in particular played a huge role, not only in galvanising the community, but also in helping people maybe get rid of some of the excess stress that they were suffering at the time.
Yes, I think that's really important to say that it's that communal space of people coming together, and that it's a shared thing. Because sometimes when you're under stress, you feel it's just yourself, and you're the only one in this situation. And coming out on the streets, it kind of gives power back to the people as well, because that's that sense of empowerment, that sense of having taken it into the hands of the community to kind of challenge and to look for the redress and look for justice around this is really important. So I do think that sense of coming together as a community was really important those days. As much as making a case to government, it's also about showing that there are a lot of us in this situation. This is, and even for people that don't have MICA, that they came out and supported people who do. So it's knowing that we recognise this, we see it. We want to be part of supporting families through this as well. So I think it's that sense of solidarity and community was really important in those marches. And the same with something like this training. It's about bringing people together in a space that they know they're not doing this alone. Because sometimes, even though it's everywhere, you can still feel it's just me feel this way about this,
Yeah. Now, the training starts on May 5th, which is toward the end of next week. How do people go about registering if they wish to take part?
Yeah, it's you can either ring Inishowen Development Partnership and book that way, but we also have an Eventbrite link on our website. So it's online, so it means that anybody across the county can join in on this. It's on Zoom, so that you just have to click in to register, and then say inishowen.ie is our website, and it's under our What's On section. And this is really, I suppose, it's county-wide. It's not just Inishowen. It's for anybody across the county who's either working with families that are facing MICA, but also people who have MICA, in a household as well themselves directly. So it's for both sides of that, because a lot of people, as I say, are being supported by local statutory or community agencies as well. So those people are invited to be part of it, but also for families directly and individuals who have houses with MICA.
Now, obviously, this is separate from the MICA campaign itself, and that campaign keeps going, in tandem, as it were. But you have liaised with the MICA Action Group and with others. You have been speaking to the campaigners, and you aren't going in there ignorant of the wider situation. You know well what the full situation is, and you're well briefed to deal with any questions. But obviously, you're not necessarily looking to discuss the MICA campaign. You're looking to discuss the effect of living with MICA and the impact it's having on individuals and on families. Hello, Denise. Oh, have we just lost Denise there?
Sorry, did I lose you there?
I think we just lost you briefly there, Denise. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. This is really a focus on well-being, and it's a real hands-on way to look at building your own resilience and your sense of wellness. So that's what the focus is on. Even though it's in the context of MICA, it's more about looking at wellness and teaching yourself good, I suppose, mechanisms and skills to recognise when your body's under stress, but also how to deal with that as well, and do it for yourself and do it for your family then as well.
Yeah. Well,
around building your mental health and well-being.
Yeah, well, Denise, you did speak to us over the weekend, and we were on a story at the weekend on news as well, and all the details and the contact numbers and the websites and so on, they're all available on the news section of our website, highlandradio.com. But for the moment, Denise McCool, thanks indeed for speaking to us this morning.
Thank you, Donal.
And we wish you, and obviously we wish all the families that avail of the training all the best as well. That's resilience training for people affected by MICA. It's being organised by Inishowen Development Partnership. Now, obviously, it's for anyone right across the county. It's not only people in Inishowen. If it's on Zoom, so if you're anywhere in the county, you can avail of that training. You can go on to inishowen.ie/whatson. And there's a link to the Eventbrite ticket page as we said, on our website, highlandradio.com. Now, let's take a look at some of your comments. Caller says, a census enumerator called to my home yesterday. I missed them. He left a note in my door asking me to send it back in the post, but with no details of who or where to post it to. Now, we know the CSO office is in Swords in Dublin. I would have thought there'd be probably an address on the sheet itself as well, but just take a look toward the back of the sheet. The address may well be on the actual census form itself, but the CSO office is in Swords in Dublin. Caller speaking about Gerard, who spoke to us just before the news at 10, and outlined how in Holland they pay a little bit more tax but get far more social services as a result. Caller says Gerard obviously has his homework done and knows what he's talking about. Now, another caller says that guy doesn't understand that the welfare system in Northern Ireland can't be compared with the Irish one. In the north, if you're eligible for welfare, your housing is paid for. Our system is more about profits for quangos. And that's I did sort of suggest that maybe you're not always comparing like with like. Now, and we spoke earlier to Linda about the impending closure of the cafe in Killybegs, the Fusion Bistro there, and a caller says, and then the government deny 51 seasonal workers 3 days of work in Killybegs. That's a reference to the fact that at the weekend another ship we're hearing about how ships have been leaving Killybegs to go and offload elsewhere because of an ongoing row over the weighing of catches on the pier. And there was another incident at the weekend, which we'll be looking at, I think, a little bit later on in the programme. Another caller says power-hungry civil servants need to be brought under control. 1,100 tonne of top-quality wild blue whiting, enough fish to feed 7 million people, dumped into fish meal in Killybegs, converted into animal feed. This is criminal. Dumping wild fish and importing farmed fish from Vietnam to feed our population. It's madness on another level, and someone must be held accountable for what's happening. So says a caller. Another question about the Armagh Donegal game that took place yesterday in McCool Park. I'll put that to one side actually, because we'll hopefully have Brendan Devaney in with us to preview tonight's DL debate, and Brendan should be in with us shortly after 11, so we'll just leave that question there and we'll speak to Brendan about that. It's 29 minutes past 10 o'clock. We're going to take a short break.
When it feels like money's tight, it's good to know that there's an Aldi price match at Tesco with hundreds of your favourite products every week, from bananas to Barry's tea. So you can be sure you'll find the products that matter most to you, because right now, every little helps. Shopping took place on the 7th of April. Price checked and matched and comparable products from select Aldi ROI stores and or online weekly. Price most often found is matched pro rata and excluding promotions. Products matched may vary by week. Product availability varies by store. For verification, see tesco.ie/groceries.
Love what you do and you'll never work a day in your life, says old Mr. Brennan. That's why our family pan bakers make such great tasting bread. Is that so, says I? Well, put it like this, sissy. It is Ireland's favourite sliced pan. But it's not just the taste, it's the pure satisfaction you get from our famous bread, baked fresh each and every morning. However you slice it, anything baked is better with Brennan's. Today's bread today.
Sun soak for less. This summer with TUI. Savings on holidays during May. Holiday sorted. TUI. Live happy.
All ready for next year? Why not make sure of it with SEAT? Trade up to a 221 SEAT SUV and you'll be offered PCP finance from 1.9%.
And that was music from the wonderful Elkie Brooks and Pearl's Singer. Now, let's speak about the aftermath of marriage, because new data suggests that the number of women choosing to include their birth names alongside their spouse's surname after getting married, or indeed the number of women just choosing not to change their name at all, is in fact rising. And I'm joined on Zoom by Cecile Mazoué, who is the founder of NameSwitch. Cecile, good morning to you.
Good morning, Donal.
Pleasure to speak to you. You believe that the evidence would suggest that the just automatic assumption that a woman is going to change her name is now a thing of the past?
Well, not so much a thing of the past, but certainly a picture that's evolving, which is really quite delightful to see. What we're finding is more and more people are aware of the choices and different options available to them. So name changing practices are evolving. You will still get a very large percentage of women will take their other half's name, whether that be same-sex marriages or a man and a woman. But we are starting to see a very distinct rise in different ways of doing things. And as you were alluding to earlier, a lot of women are very keen to maintain or preserve their maiden name in a number of different ways.
I heard a suggestion at one point that there have been a number of cases where they've gone for a double-barreled name, but not only has the woman gone for a double-barreled name, but the man has also done it and taken on her surname as well. And perhaps that's a very interesting sort of, as it were, compromise where both, in fact, take both names.
Yeah. So we're seeing that grow massively. It's probably almost tripled in the last 2 years. We've always seen women taking double barrels, but the number and the ratio of that is higher. But I think what's even more noticeable is that we're actually seeing couples coming in and doing that. Yeah. So sometimes it was just the woman who would double barrel, but now what we're seeing is couples doing that, as well as couples doing things differently. So we will find men taking their wife's name. We will find a very few men will take their wife's name as a middle name. But we're finding also that some couples are choosing to blend them together. It's what's known as meshing. So it's where they take a part of one name and a part of the other and create a brand new name, which is a little bit out there, but that's, it's a smaller percentage, but definitely on the rise.
Traditionally, one would have seen that even in cases where women kept their maiden name after marriage, very often the children, it would be almost automatically expected, would take the surname of the husband stroke father rather than the surname of the mother. Is that something you've looked at as well?
We don't see too much of that because we focus on adult name changes, but some anecdotal information. So firstly, there is no legal requirement for a child to take the father's name. It's more a traditional thing. So that's really down to the parents' choice of what they choose to give as a name. I was on a show last week with another couple who both decided not to change their names. So the lady kept her name, the husband kept his name, but they actually created a blended name of the two and they gave that to their children. So that's, there are choices out there, but I would still say that probably the vast majority, and I'm not really au fait to talk too much about that because, as I say, we tend to deal more with the adults changing their names and not so much with the choice to give their children.
And you're obviously dealing with the deed poll office, and you're looking at name changes, you're crunching the figures and you're taking very much a numerical evidence-based approach to this. And to your mind, the way things are looking, we're going to see these meshing trends increase in the coming months, and we're going to see more and more women deciding either to go double-barreled or just to stick with their own name.
Yeah, absolutely. The choice is out there and people are more aware of their choices. And I think we've all had a lot more time on our hands to really contemplate things. So the weddings that are coming through now are invariably date number 3 or 4 or 5 for some. So they've had an awful lot of time to really think through some of the details. And that includes, the name that they want to feel comfortable with as a team. We're also seeing, so in terms of stats, 1 in 4 women will make a maiden name a middle name. So that's very common. But we're seeing an increase now in women coming to us asking to do what I would describe as the best of both. And that is where they will keep their maiden name professionally because they've built up a reputation. The average age of people getting married is now in their early to mid 30s, as opposed to a few generations before, it was a lot younger. And it's absolutely possible to do that. It requires a little bit of compromise, but it's totally legal and totally possible to have 2 distinct names, brands, if you like. So professionally, they maintain that brand and that name that they've always been known by. And then personally, privately, they change their name to their married chosen name, whatever that might be.
And I've seen that myself with good friends who do exactly that. Actually, in this business in particular, obviously, in broadcasting, it happens, I think, quite a bit, and fully understandably so. How important is it, in your view, that when, for instance, a tweet by Francesca Spector, the author and journalist, went bonkers it went viral last month, suggesting it's bonkers that women are still changing their names in 2022, and things like a tweet such as that can get traction online, get a discussion going online, get picked up by the papers, and that seems to be what's happened in this instance. That one tweet has just started a whole discussion and started a whole online debate, and it's inevitable that debate is going to have long-term impact.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, look, for me, I don't have a firm opinion. What my strongest sentiment is that it's all about choice, and there isn't a right or wrong. It's about understanding what is right for individuals and for couples. Now, that could be a whole array of different things. They may wish to stick, which is perfectly fine. They may wish to twist. They may wish to twist with a twist. And I don't think personally that we should enforce a practice one way or another. I think ultimately we're at the point, and thankfully we are, where there is choice, and it's for each individual to weigh up and understand what those choices are and to weigh up what makes sense for them.
I've always been fascinated by the Icelandic naming structure, where children take their names from their parents, but sons take names from fathers and daughters take names from mothers. So my name would have been Donal Kevinson, and my sister's name would have been Aideen Maureen daughter. And I always find that a very interesting one, which sort of to a certain extent circumvents this whole problem.
It does, but then that's a completely different culture.
Yeah, of course.
If you look in that space, they're so much more forward thinking than we are when it comes to maternity care and parental leave and all sorts of things like that. It is a nation, and lots in that part of the world, and Denmark as well, they're inherently more equal than perhaps we are in the UK. But obviously, we're a little bit more open-minded now to the fact that there are choices. But yeah, every country and every culture has different customs, and even within those cultures who live in the UK, in some ways, some of this generation are actually groundbreaking as well, because they're going against potentially what is their cultural or traditional religious approach to things. And we're seeing many of those keep their maiden name in some way within their name structure.
An interesting comment, actually, saying that, I mean, in Irish tradition, taking your husband's name was not the tradition in Irish custom, and it came along under British rule, and it was after British rule was implemented in Ireland, really, that sort of taking your husband's surname became the trend. And, women keeping their own names was very evident, particularly in Gaeltacht areas, Irish-speaking areas, right up to more recent times. I find that's very quite an interesting one, actually, that it's very much a British custom that has been perhaps exported elsewhere.
Yeah. Well, as in so many things, but sometimes things do go full circle. And I don't know, it'd be interesting to see whether the pendulum swings all the way back or partly back, but again, it's down to choice. But the one thing we also find is that people tend to get married in batches. So you will have lots of group friends would typically get married within a couple of years of each other. and they're very much influencing each other. So when we first interviewed men who were our customers 5-6 years ago, they were quite unique, but they have always said, and everyone that we've spoken to has always said, actually now, after a little bit of banter, for example, other people are becoming more open-minded. So it would be interesting to see over time how trends will evolve, based not so much on media or perhaps some tweets that actually get us to talk, which is no bad thing, but perhaps more on the practices that their friends and family are starting to kind of pepper in that makes people think.
And the other thing then, of course, is that will pass on then to their children when they eventually grow up. They'll have grown up under a slightly different tradition. They will not have grown up with the same assumptions, the same presumptions, and it'll be interesting then to see what happens with the next generation and the generation after that, because no doubt things will evolve again and things will keep on evolving.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think this is one of so many things that are changing. And then we'll find, for example, there's going to be a plethora of double-barreled kids out there. So what's going to happen when those two double-barreled kids then start to, meet? Yeah. What we're seeing at the moment is typically one of the doubles will get dropped. We have had a few triple barrels, but it depends on how long they are and how, if it's too long, it actually won't enter onto a passport. Yeah. Form. So yeah, people need to be pragmatic about that as time goes on as well.
Yep. Yeah, now a caller is putting her in Iceland. Daughters also take their father's name, so says a caller. Another caller says, can you have the new mixed name of both people in a Catholic church marriage? Well, that's a matter for the church. We're talking about the deed poll and the legal system here, really. So you're dealing with the deed poll office, so you're very much dealing with the legal system. And I presume can't really comment on the situation within a church. I mean, I don't think the church is anything. You get your marriage certificate from the church, but I mean, I don't think the name you're using comes into the religious part of the ceremony.
No, I wouldn't have thought so. But
no, I don't think so, no.
So what happens when you have a marriage certificate that is issued by whoever is issuing it, that entitles you to take your partner's name, or for him or her to take yours, or to double barrel them. That's what your marriage certificate entitles you to do. If you want to do anything beyond that, so if you want to create a new name, or if you want to make a maiden name, a middle name, then you need to apply for what's known as a deed poll. You can get the deed poll from many places, actually. You can get it through us. It's no plug, but it's not just the deed poll office. There are at least a dozen deed poll providers out there, and it's actually quite an easy, quick document. You can also self-certify and have it registered on the .gov website, which is free, but you need to register it. And then, it can be a little bit bizarrely, a bit more convoluted actually to do that. So once you are wed, your choice of name is down to you. And ourselves and all of the other deed poll providers out there follow the laws and the naming convention. So you can effectively call yourself anything. However, you can't call yourself anything inflammatory. So, Donal, if you wanted to change your name to Adolf Hitler, for example, that wouldn't be allowed. You can't just have one name. I know, I don't know, Madonna or Prince or something. You do need actually to have a first name and a surname. Yeah. So as long as it's within the realms of the law, then you can choose whichever name you like.
I do actually recall there was a case in the UK several years ago now, and I strongly suspect before your time, where someone who had a dispute with their local bank, and I can't remember which bank it was, but they wanted to call themselves... what?
Was it Cheeseburger?
No. He wanted to call himself something. We just, for the sake of argument, we'll say Donal Kavanagh Bank are lying. Question of legitimacy of parenthood, and wanted to change their name by deed poll to that, and they were not allowed, but they just wanted that to be their name. That the Donal Kavanagh Bank are a bunch of lying, with an expletive at the end.
Well, yeah, some people will make a point in quite an interesting way. But yeah, there was a comedian who changed his name to Hugo Boss. Mm-hmm. There was a long time ago a man who called himself Mr. Cheese, but first name Cheese and surname Burger.
Right.
I'm not too sure how that went through, but yes, he became Cheeseburger. Mr. Cheeseburger.
Yeah, for a lot of people, I was doing a quiz once, and I asked the question, what was Elton John's real name? And everyone said Reginald Dwight. And I told them, no, his real name is Elton John, because he changed it by deed poll. And you can actually go online and you can find the certificate. Elton John's deed poll certificate is online. And his name officially, according to the deed poll office, is Elton Hercules John.
Yes, that's right, Hercules.
And that's, Elton Hercules John. I just love that. And so if ever anyone asks you, it's a great one to start rows at table quizzes. And you can't beat a good row at a table quiz. Cecile, it's been a really interesting conversation, and thanks very much indeed for speaking to us this morning.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure. I really enjoyed that one. That's Cecile, and we'll be watching with interest to see exactly what happens with the trends that are coming. The idea of meshed names is an interesting one, actually. We go sit down and start playing with all sorts of permutations. That's what I'm doing in my own head at the moment. I'm sure a lot of people out there are doing that as well, just playing permutations with your name or your partner's maiden name or whatever, and I'm certainly playing that game in my head, and I know we're going to be talking about that at the tea table tonight. It's going to be quite fun, actually. Let's take a short break. It's 9 minutes to 11 o'clock.
This is your guide to smart glasses. Smart glasses often look like regular glasses, and some of them have built-in cameras. Even if you don't wear smart glasses, it's helpful to know what it looks like when someone who is wearing them is taking a photo or video. One way someone can activate their camera is by tapping the capture button on the frame. Another way is by using a voice command, like
take a photo.
So now you know a bit more about smart glasses.
A message from Meta and Esialor Luxottica.
GiveBlood.ie know we can count on you, our community of blood donors, to give blood and to choose to be there for others in their hour of need. Blood donors from Letterkenny and Trinity Hall, Bumbeg, should attend the clinic in the Radisson Blue Hotel in Letterkenny from Monday 25th to Thursday 28th of April. To ensure social distancing, all donors need to make an appointment, so call 1-800-731-137 to book your time. New donors are welcome. Visit giveblood.ie to check eligibility and clinic details, because we count on you.
Lidl's inflation-busting offers are helping families all across Ireland.
As a family of 5, I have seen huge changes in the savings. I see them every week. There's a great variety of products. Very pleased with it.
Inflation-busting offers at Lidl. More for you. Customers were paid a gratuity for their time.
Highland Radio weather updates with Ireland West Airport. This summer is going to be one of the busiest ever. Check out our summer flights to European cities such as Barcelona, Cologne and Milan with Ryanair. Ireland West Airport, you're flying.
Looking at the weather forecast and Met Éireann tell us that it will be a largely dry day today. We'll see some rain in the afternoon. We'll have cloud and sunny spells, of course, throughout the rest of the morning. Top temperatures 11 to 13, light to moderate easterly winds. Tonight it'll be mostly dry with clear spells, just some isolated light showers. Some mist and fog patches developing in a light easterly or variable breeze. Staying quite cold tonight, actually. Lowest temperatures 1 to 4, a touch of grass frost possible. And it was quite chilly last night as well, as we were going to go out and eat our tea outside actually, and then decided very quickly we wouldn't. Tomorrow largely dry again with bright sunny spells, scattered showers developing in the afternoon. Top temperatures again 2 to 14, a light to moderate easterly breeze. Now, let's go to line 2. We're joined by Dennis Carberry, who is the skipper of the Lauren. Dennis, good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Dennis, we've heard an awful lot in recent weeks about the SFPA and the 5% of people that are being randomly selected to have their catches weighed at the pier. That happened you at the weekend. Tell us what happened.
Yeah, we had our first maiden trip there last week, and we caught our quota of 1,100 tonnes, and they arrived in Killybegs on Friday night at 10:30. And 2 SFPA officers arrived on board, and they informed me that the entire catch of fish would be weighed on the pier in Killybegs. And basically this means that they weigh the fish and the water, because if we send the fish to the processing factory, they have to be sent to the factory with fish and chilled water. We chill the water to minus 1.5 degrees centigrade, and that's how they're transported to the factory to keep them in top quality condition.
Yeah. Now, the SFPA are telling us that they are offering skippers such as yourselves an alternative method that would involve weighing the fish in water. And the inference of what the SFPA are telling us is that there is a system available which will preserve the fish. You are saying effectively that's not the case.
Well, this system is okay for landing mackerel and horse mackerel and herring because they're more tougher fish and they're hardier. But the blue whiting is very delicate, and this means that they have to be taken out of chilled water, weighed, put back into chilled water, then transported to the factory. Then they come back out of the chilled water again and be weighed again in the factory.
Yeah.
So this is a process of being double weighing the fish, and it's affecting the quality of the fish. And like the owners of this vessel spent huge sums of money building the vessel, and like we tried to catch the fish and deliver the fish in top quality condition. So I was left with no option but to send the fish to the fish meal factory because they have the facility on the pier here for dewatering the fish.
And obviously what the fish meal factory is paying is going to be considerably less than it's going to be paying for a processor that's preparing that fish for human consumption.
Well, the financial hit by us fish mealing the fish and not having them going to the fish processing factory is over 55,000 euros. So it's a huge loss to the vessel. Plus, it's a huge loss to the fish factory and the fish factory workers. They were all lined up to work on Saturday morning, and they had to be phoned and told that they had no work for the weekend. So, it's a crazy situation.
And this was Lauren's maiden voyage. So what should have been a triumphant return to port with your very first catch on the ship's maiden voyage, the newest ship in the fleet, in the pelagic fleet, instead turned into what, from your point of view, and of course the point of view of the owners of the vessel as well, was a disaster.
Yeah, it's a complete disaster for us because we have a small enough quota as it is, and we want to maximise our return by landing top quality fish, but this is just a ridiculous situation and it's going on for too long now.
We know some vessels chose to leave Killybegs and go on to Derry and offload the fish at Foyle Port. That option wasn't available on this occasion?
No, that option wasn't available to us because the fish processing factory were told that their processing licence would be withdrawn if we landed in Derry and the fish were transported back by road to Killybegs.
Who told them that?
That's the FPA.
Right, so it appears, and I haven't heard of that one happening before. Our understanding was previously that fish were landed in Derry and then transported by truck to the factory and then processed under normal circumstances. I mean, this suggests there's another escalation. Yes,
I was only informed of this on Friday night because when the SFPA came on board, I had to notify the owners, and that was what was relayed to me, that if we went to Derry, that they were going to take the processing licence off RT Fish, and I think Ward Fish was also told the same. So
our understanding is, from speaking both to Minister Charlie McConalogue and from the releases that we've been getting, press releases and a statement from the SFPA. They haven't spoken to us directly, but our understanding from what we're getting from them is that they are negotiating a new control structure with the European Commission, and they're hoping to have a new system of control in place by next week. Are you in any way hopeful that we will see that and we can see this farce in Killybegs come to an end?
Well, I hope it comes to an end sooner rather than later, because the situation can't go on. Like, we're the most regulated and over-policed industry. It's totally ridiculous what's going on. Yeah. Like, we're not allowed to land fish between midnight and 8 a.m. in the morning, and weekends we can't land after 6 p.m. in the evening, and that also applies on holidays. Like, fish is a perishable item and it needs to be landed straight away once we get to the pier, and they just seem to throw obstacles in our way all the time. I've landed fish all over Europe and in Norway, and none of these regulations apply anywhere else. It's only in Ireland. And it seems to be that these faceless civil servants, non-elected civil servants who run the Department of Marine, they just seem to have it out for the fishing industry. I think they just want to close it down completely.
You have suggested that at this point what's necessary is to blockade Dublin Port.
Yep. I can't see any other resolution. The government don't realise we're living on an island. Like, all of the other island nations in the northeast Atlantic and coastal states have thriving fishing industries. And they would love to have the resources that we have on our doorstep, but our government just seems hell-bent on giving everything away.
Right.
Like, they negotiated away 26% of our mackerel quota with the Brexit negotiations. And this 26% they give away, that was to allow other EU countries access to British waters. It wasn't to the benefit of Irish fishermen. We have plenty of fish in our own waters that we're capable of catching, but we only have 15% of the catch in our own waters. Yeah. So the whole thing is just completely wrong. Like, this has gone on for 50 years now since we joined the EU, and it's just enough's enough. Like, the fishing industry is on its knees as we stand at the moment.
Dennis Carberry, skipper of the Lauren, boarded by SFPA officers at the weekend, and a 1,100 tonne catch of blue whiting effectively lost to the processor and sent for fish meal instead. This is an ongoing discussion, and Dennis, thank you indeed for your contribution, because it's good to hear from someone who is involved in this, as it were, on the coalface. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to be listening with great interest to what you've said, and we're getting a lot of comments in support of yourself, and we'll bring those comments to you in the last hour of the programme. Dennis, for the moment, thank you indeed for speaking to us.
Okay, Donal, thanks very much
Dennis,
for having me on. And anytime, give me a call, because this situation has to be stopped.
Absolutely, we will. Absolutely. And thank you for the offer. It is just gone 11 o'clock, with apologies to Michaela Clark. It's time for the headlines. Michaela, good morning.
Thanks, Donal. Good morning. It seems Minister Eamon Ryan is roaring back on proposed new on the sale and distribution of turf. He now says it won't apply to rural communities of fewer than 500 people, but will instead focus on commercial and retail activities. There have been clashes between the coalition parties over the issue, but Minister Ryan says it won't be a case of inspectors going into cottages and sifting through the gate. A Killybegs restaurant has been forced to close its doors due to never-ending cost increases. Fusion Bistro has made the difficult decision to cease trading as of next Saturday. Co-owner Linda Boyle says overheads and staff shortages have become unsustainable. Micheál Martin says we have to do more when it comes to providing for Ukrainian refugees. The Taoiseach was speaking at the new refugee centre in Mill Street, County Cork. Around 100 Ukrainian families are being housed in the centre, which he says is an example of Ireland's innovative approach to the crisis. The PRO of the Micah Action Group believes Donegal County councillors need to be stepping up to the mark as homeowners remain in limbo. In a social media update, Michael Doherty called on Donegal County Council to expedite the process and ensure applications are looked at and processed as quick as possible for homeowners. An emergency meeting is being held in Dunloe this evening as the future of the Merry from Dunloe Festival is in jeopardy. Committee members have issued an urgent request for volunteers to ensure the survival of the annual event. The meeting will take place this evening at 6 o'clock in the Inid Temple Crone, Dunloe. And repairs to a burst water main are causing supply disruptions in the Kirkstown area of Letterkenny. Irish Water says works are expected to be carried out at around 3 o'clock. Those are the latest headlines. We'll be back with an update again at 12 noon.
This Monday, tune in for the DL Debate, the Championship, as there is another huge weekend of GA action in the county. Our Donegal hurlers face Roscommon in the Nicky record. Donegal minor footballers play for Mana in the opening round of the Ulster Championship. And of course, the tie shrouded in controversy. Donegal v Armagh in the Ulster Championship at Ballybofey. We'll have interviews from all the teams involved at the weekend, plus analysis from Ryan Ferry of the Donegal News, and also joining me, Armagh legend Oisín McConville. It's a DL Debate this Monday just after 7pm news and podcasted on highlandradio.com.
The DL Debate with Sister Sarah's Letterkenny, serving food you'll love till 9pm daily in Sarah's Kitchen, and there's free admission entertainment every weekend.
Lidl's inflation-busting offers are helping families all across Ireland.
As a family of 5, I have seen huge changes in the savings. I see them every week. There's a great variety of products. Very pleased with it.
Inflation-busting offers at Lidl. More for you. Customers were paid a gratuity for their time.
Sport. It's at the heart of every community. And so is Special Olympics. Every day, volunteers help people with an intellectual disability to experience joy through sport. The Special Olympics Annual Collection Day takes place on Friday 29th of April. Please give what you can to our bucket collectors on Friday 29th of April or donate through your Revolut app. Thank you.
Bingo every Monday night at the Halfway House Burnfoot. Doors open 7:30 with ice down at 8:30. €2,500 must go. Snowball is now €5,250 on 45 numbers or less. If you're not in, you can't win. That's the Halfway House Bingo tonight at 8:30.
The CFC Interior stock disposal sale is now on. Due to overstock, an incredible £1.5 million worth of stock must go. Don't miss our highest ever stock discount on selected ranges across all departments. The stock disposal sale at CFC Interiors, Derry, Cookstown and Abbey Centre.
COVID-19 can still cause serious illness, especially in people at higher risk. We need to keep protecting each other. So stay home if you have symptoms. Wear a mask in healthcare settings, public transport and busy places. Let fresh air in if you're meeting indoors. Keep hands clean. And get a COVID-19 vaccine and booster. Let's keep looking out for each other. From the HSE, for us all.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union. Is your bank leaving town? Letterkenny Credit Union is now offering MyCU current account and debit MasterCard, bringing full banking features with no appointment necessary to open your account.
It's the third and final hour of the 9 to noon show, joined by Gerard Kelly, who's a fisherman also involved in aquaculture. And Gerard, you've been listening to what Dennis was saying before the break, and you believe we need a fundamental change in the way Ireland operates in its own waters.
That's right. Good morning, listeners, as well. I've listened to them. First of all, congratulations to the new company on their new vessel, Lorne, and hopefully there will be better landings ahead than what they had in their first one. Ireland has done a very bad deal years ago. There is a new game in town now as a result of Brexit. It's called zonal attachment. The EU recognises that countries, they actually recognise that the UK had a greater entitlement to fish in its own waters because of zonal attachment. And Ireland is a country that would benefit greatly by that key. The old allocation key was called relative stability and was based on what you took out of your waters. That's before we even had a decent fishing fleet. Now it's zonal attachment, and I think that if we had the right civil servants, we could pursue this. And I don't think at the moment we have either the right civil servants or even have got the right intentions. That never has been as well illustrated to me as what Dennis is after saying there. They have done us bad deals over the years. We've done us a bad deal at Brexit. Now that the men are trying to survive with the smaller quotas, they are abusing every avenue that the men explored to try to even to add value to the blue whiting. So it's way past time that something happened. And just to give you a small insight, I would have been involved in an industry that was the second most valuable industry in the country. In the early 90s, our industry was valued at 40 million. It was a turnover. Now it's less than 10. 2 weeks ago, I attended a conference to do with the bottom mussel industry. I made an offer to speak to anyone who was interested in restoring the industry back to in excess of 40 million. It was mostly BIM staff were there. Not one has contacted me.
There is a perception that the civil service and those involved in fishery in particular are more interested in rules and regulations than they are in supporting the sector. Also joined on the line by Father John Joe Duffy, who has always taken a keen interest in the fishing sector. Father John Joe, good morning.
Good morning, Donal. I'm very sad this morning. I have to say that 51 workers, seasonal workers, at the start of the programme, you talked about the situation in Kellybeg, where restaurant and how people are going through hard times. While I congratulate the family on their new boat, I feel terrible sympathy and sadness for the 51 seasonal workers that were sent home this weekend that could not work in Kellybegs because of the harassment, the intimidation, the heavy-handedness of the private police force of some within the higher echelons of the department, the SFPA, who are clearly harassing and intimidating boats in Kellybegs, and as we have heard from a previous speaker, also clearly intimidating factories with threats. And this is absolutely morally wrong. We have not seen anything like this ever in the state. I think the last time we saw such actions was in a previous 2 centuries ago, probably. It's awfully sad what's happening. It's terribly sad what's happening in Kellybegs at the moment.
Your belief is effectively that fishermen are finding a voice and fishermen are speaking out, and those involved in the fishing industry, men and women, it has to be said, are actually standing up for themselves. And you believe the state doesn't like that?
Since the fishermen and people in the fishing industry have started to speak out, there was a meeting down in Kellybegs with the minister. We now see that resulting in the heavy-handedness of the state. It is intimidation by the state's by the Department of the Marine's private police force, the Sea Fisheries Protection Authority, and it is clear to be seen. We see that in the threats. This is totally wrong. Fish scales that the High Court ruled was fit to be used. They will not use. And there's something very significant about this. They say that monitors are placed on boats due to a risk-based analysis. This was the Lauren's maiden voyage, her first trip to sea, her first landing into Kellybegs. How was there a risk-based analysis? This monitoring, I believe, this check was purely intimidation and denying the people the right to work, denying families the right to put bread on their table, and it has been spearheaded, I believe, by higher echelons within the Department of the Marine, and there is no political voice to stop it.
Well, indeed, there's a caller who says civil servants have too much power now, and we're seeing this in other departments as well, and some senior civil servants need to be railed in. I want to go back to you, Jared, because from what Father John Joe was saying there, it's interesting that Europe is hardly being mentioned at all. Father John Joe believes this is very much between the state and the fishing sector. Now, the SFPA are telling us, no, we're doing what we're told by Europe, we're working under European legislation. Is the SFPA and the state hiding behind Europe on this one?
They are, of course, because at that meeting in Kellybegs, I read out how the Netherlands monitor their pelagic fleet. They actually do it privately, and I think it's time that we had a private industry, a private company doing it in Ireland. The disadvantage to that is that the SFPA are also involved in providing the health certificates when the fish are processed. That could be done by the Food Safety Authority, and that would give the factories a much freer voice because they feel blackmailed by the SFPA and what they can say and what they can't say. And I would have to also say that I admire Father John Joe, for he was the first person to help us to speak out against the civil servants. We were all very much in fear of intimidation by the civil servants and through the SFPA.
Father John Joe, going back to yourself, we heard Dennis, the skipper of the Lauren there before the news, suggest that maybe what's necessary is it's time to start a blockade of Dublin Port and for the local fishers to actually get down to Dublin and just as we've seen the Micah campaigners do, just as we've seen farmers do, just as we've seen truck drivers do, maybe it's time for the fishers to go down and make their presence felt at Dublin Port. You, I suspect, would support that move.
The fishermen need to do something drastically before they are totally wiped out, before Kellybegs ends up being like Burton Port and other small ports where fishing has disappeared. What is also significant in this is that there was a High Court ruling in June 2021 where the High Court said that the Sea Fisheries Protection Authority were in breach of national and European law in withholding approval for the new scales, which would weigh the fish and have them perfectly in good condition. Tim Donovan was headhunted by the department, brought in from the United States, an expert in fisheries conservation, and just some months ago he was let go or from the department or removed from the department, whatever the case would be. I asked the minister that and I didn't get an answer. The fishes, they are able to weigh fish in every other European country bar Ireland on the scales that the fishermen invested heavily in and is sitting on the pier in Kellybegs, which these fish should have been weighed through for the last number of shipments that came into Kellybegs. But there was a letter signed and sent to Europe in February stating that Ireland was not happy to use this type of scale. The only country in Europe that's not happy to use it. I believe that Kellybegs will be closed down if the fishermen do not take drastic action. This is the 21st century, Donal.
And we understand from Minister Charlie McConnell.
We need new faces.
Yeah.
We need new faces in the Department of the Marine. We need people with business acumen. We do not need career civil servants any longer trying to run this department. Back in 2011, Minister Charlie McConnell, then a TD, called for a renewal of the department, called for new management in the department. He said the industry could not work with these people going forward or have confidence in them. The same people are there. Minister McConnell is now the minister, but I believe that there needs to be a whole government action taken here because we have seen the failures and we have seen the intimidation against fishermen. It is time for the whole government to respond because we're not getting the political response that is needed.
The Minister and I want to put a final question to both of you. The Minister and the SFPA are both saying that they anticipate a new control structure will be in place in the coming weeks. It should be in place by May, and that should address this issue. Yourself, Father John Joe, first, do you have any confidence that that will be the case?
Well, I can tell you it's too late for hundreds of seasonal workers in Kellybegs that have lost the right to make a living due to this heavy-handedness, due to this intimidation. There needs to be answers. There needs to be something done right away as of now. This is an absolute disgrace. It's intimidation, it's heavy-handedness, and it's totally, totally wrong.
And Gerard Kelly, I'm going to put the same question to yourself. Do you have any confidence that we will see a resolution to this and effectively Europe will agree a new control structure that will allow the weighing of catches in factories to resume as the norm?
Yeah, I don't think that Europe's the problem. I've been in Europe many times, and the attitude to Irish fishing industry in Europe is much better than it is in Ireland by our own civil servants. And I think it's time that we had our own people working more closely with what Europe wants. And just to give you a small thing, we only actually have 3% of blue whiting quota in Ireland. So for every 3 fish we take, other boats are taking 97. So that's the type of thing that needs to be changed. The weighing of them is quite simple. The fish are all put into 20 kilo cartons. It's not hard. There's about 40 SFPA of Kellybegs available. Count them into the cartons so they can actually then be counted properly and have the destined for human consumption. Now, as regards the talk about a protest, I'm going to a meeting about my industry in about the 12th of May in BIM offices. It's quite likely I won't be allowed into that meeting because the department seem to only want people who are yes and agree with them. I have radical ideas, maybe not so radical. Some of them are just to try and reinstate things that happened in the past. I think I could bring an extra 40 to 50 million into our coastal communities without one extra cent of investment. So it'll be interesting if I have to come back to you and tell you whether I was put out of that meeting or let into it.
Well, we look forward to hearing about Father John Joe, indeed.
Can I make a direct appeal to the Taoiseach and the government this morning to immediately intervene in this unworkable situation where we see people being denied the right to work? Our quotas are small enough. Irish vessels are only allowed to fish 15% of fish in Irish waters. 85% goes to foreign vessels. I was on the pier in Kellybegs some time ago. I saw the fish being landed onto French lorries, Spanish lorries, no check, going back to their home countries. I saw small wooden boats coming into the pier of Kellybegs, and there was nothing but fishery officers there that day. No fishery officers there when the foreign vessels were landing. I appeal directly to the Taoiseach and to the government as a whole to take immediate action and do something before it is too late for Kellybegs. There seemed to be pointed discrimination against fishermen here in Donegal, and I don't know why that is, but somebody needs to go into that department and sort it out right away.
Father John Joe Duffy and Gerard Kelly, thank you both very much indeed for speaking to us this morning.
This Monday, tune in for the DL Debate the Championship, as there is another huge weekend of GA action in the county. Our Donegal hurlers face Roscommon in the Nicky record. Donegal minor footballers play for Mana in the opening round of the Ulster Championship. And of course, the tie shrouded in controversy. Donegal v Armagh in the Ulster Championship at Ballybofey. We'll have interviews from all the teams involved at the weekend, plus analysis from Ryan Ferry of the Donegal News, and also joining me, Armagh legend Oisín McConville. It's a DL debate this Monday just after 7pm news and podcasted on highlandradio.com.
The DL debate with Sister Sarah's Letterkenny, serving food you'll love till 9pm daily in Sarah's Kitchen. And there's free admission entertainment every weekend.
Hit refresh on your home this spring at Foy & Company in Ballybofey and Letterkenny. Create your perfect home with new arrivals in furniture and beautiful fabrics, paints, wallpapers, rugs and wall art. From brightening up your kitchen to breathing new life into your living spaces, the Foy & Company team will help you create the perfect colour scheme for your home and lifestyle. Book your free online or in-store colour consultation today at foys.ie.
HPV cervical screening is free to all women aged 25 to 65. It's the best way to reduce your risk of developing cervical cancer in the future. Women over 50 are less likely to attend screening, but you're still at risk, so it's important to attend your appointment when you're invited. To check you're on the register, visit hse.ie/cervical check or free phone 1800 45 45 55 from the HSE.
Win with low prices from SuperValue. With great offers like SuperValue Fresh Irish Strip Loin Roast, save 33%. Epic! Mix and match on selected Personal Powder and Pampers Nappy Pants, any 3 for €20. Unreal! And Brancott Estate Sauvignon Blanc, only €10. Winning! Win with SuperValue low prices. Enjoy alcohol responsibly.
The CFC Interior Stock Disposal Sale is now on. Due to overstock, an incredible £1.5 million worth of stock must go. Don't miss our highest ever stock discount on selected ranges across all departments. The Stock Disposal Sale at CFC Interiors Derry, Cookstown and Abbey Centre.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union, now offering mortgages with life cover provided at no additional cost. Letterkenny Credit Union, 9102127.
As always happens when we discuss the Killybeck situation on the show, a huge reaction. A caller says maybe the fishers, the farmers and the Micah affected families and the truck drivers should all get together and completely bring Dublin to a close for a week or more. Completely close every way in or out. Perhaps then they will listen. Another caller says, oh my lord, is it Russia we're living in now? We should all be out supporting them. Caller says, when you see super trawlers fishing off the west coast of Ireland and our own fishing trawlers are tied up in port, there is something wrong with this agreement. Another caller says, where is the Minister this morning? Nothing from him and the department. He was on with Greg a few weeks ago saying he'd get this sorted. Incompetence of the highest order. Our elected representatives and officials are a disgrace, so says Liam. Now, I know the Minister is actually on a trade mission in the US at the moment. That's my understanding of where Minister Charlie McConalogue is at the moment. So he is not with us, but who is with us is the Sinn Féin spokesperson on the Marine and Donegal Deputy Padraig McLaughlin. Deputy McLaughlin, good morning.
Good morning, Donal.
We have discussed this before with yourself on the show and on news, of course, but you're listening to Father John Joe, you're listening to Jordan, of course. You've heard what Dennis, the skipper of the Lauren, had to say this morning as well, and it's a story, sadly, you've heard all too often in the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, I'm just disgusted that this has happened again so soon after the meeting in Killybegs, where hundreds of people made their opinions very clear directly to the Minister, where they gave the evidence, a testimony of what has been going on. Just for your listeners' benefit, I was in Killybegs. I was at that public meeting in recent weeks, but I was there late last year specifically to look at the weighing operation, and one of the factory operators took me in, and I could not believe what I was looking at. Basically, and it was blue whiting that was being landed on that occasion. So you have blue whiting being pumped in off a boat onto refrigerated water. It has to be kept at that temperature to keep it fresh for human consumption. It's then taken a short distance to the factory, where it goes up over a sort of conveyor belt system where it's weighed in real time. Now, the SFPA, Sea Fisheries Protection Authority, in this particular factory have 10 separate CCTV cameras that are watching the weighing happening all the time. They can land into the factory unannounced inspections. They can go to the back to check the freezers, but they have eyes on this weighing system. They don't even have to leave their own office in Killybegs. They're monitoring the weighing of the fish all the time. And how that is not enough to meet the responsibilities of the European Union. I just cannot get my head around it. I challenge the SFPA, and I've done this in Oireachtas committees, but I challenge them here again today to tell me any industry in Ireland, any workforce in Ireland that would tolerate 24-hour CCTV monitoring, of private businesses by a state authority. And that still isn't good enough. And then you end up with this debacle where they're only given an allowance of 2%. So whenever the fish are weighed with the water, they allow 2% water. It's insanity. And I've said it at the public, and I say again today, this is sabotage by Irish people, by Irish civil servants of our own industry that's already struggling to survive. And then you have voices like John Duffy and Gerard Kelly, who are very strong voices of fishing communities in Donegal. The minister heard all of this, and I understood there was a solution being worked upon. I am disgusted to hear the experience and, the 50,000 loss at least income, but of course, more importantly, the workers losing income. I mean, it's just despicable that this hasn't been confronted at this
Well, I know 2 weeks or so ago, Minister Charlie McConalogue was on the show here with Greg. I spoke to Minister McConalogue myself about this issue a few weeks back as well, and what we understood from him and what we've also understood from the SFPA is that it's all down to a European directive based on the control measures, and new control measures were being introduced, and as soon as the new control measures had been agreed, then they could be implemented and we would see this issue addressed. But what I'm hearing from people like John Joe and from Father John Joe, from people like Jared and from people like Dennis as well, the skipper of the Lauren, is that Europe is not the problem here. The problem appears not to be in Brussels. The problem appears to be in Dublin.
Oh, absolutely. This is not caused by Europe. I mean, if you go anywhere in Europe on piers and harbours, anywhere, you will not find this level of harassment and of insanity, because you have to keep fish. And by the way, that's a European directive too. You have to keep fish at a particular freshness, a particular temperature, by using refrigerated water, by using ice. These are the means to keep fish fresh, to get it to market, either in Europe or across the world. So these are the responsibilities that are upon the fishermen and upon the fish producers. So you're asking them to go against that, to wait. So why is this? Because across Europe, most factories are actually located at the pier or the harbour. In Killybegs, they're only a short distance away, but they have to physically remove them from the pier harbour and weigh them. And this is caused by Irish civil servants. It's insanity. It's willful sabotage. Now, remember, as Jared and Father John Joe and many others have been saying, this is an industry that is struggling to survive. If you go to Burton Court, Greencastle, Killybegs, all the other small piers and harbours around Donegal, they are, a shadow of what they used to be decades ago, and that's because of just civil servants and political leaders who have no passion for fishing communities, who are not willing to stand up. But in this case, this isn't even standing up to Europe. This is our own sabotage of our own industry. I can't convey how disgusted I am that this is continuing 2 weeks after the people of Killybegs and surrounding communities made a stand. The minister heard what they had to say, and I was convinced that within days we would have a solution. It would finally be sorted out. There's a weighing system on the pier that's ready to go, that should have been deployed, to solve this problem. It's insanity, Donal.
You have raised this in the Dáil in recent weeks. I take it you'll be raising it again with the Taoiseach and the Minister this week?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, absolutely. And, the Taoiseach, Pierce Doherty, my colleague, raised it very strongly with the Taoiseach. I've raised it in the Oireachtas and in the Dáil. We've challenged the SFPA, but at some point, there has to be accountability. People elect the likes of me, Charlie McConalogue and others, but in this case, Charlie McConalogue's in government, and they have to see that those that they elect can hold people to account. And this is the willful behaviour of senior civil servants in the Department of Marine, in the SFPA, which, and I'm saying it again, I believe is sabotaging our own fishing industry. This is not demanded by the European Commission, by the European Union. Yes, they asked that fish be weighed, but for Christ's sake, there's 10 CCTV cameras. In one factory I was in, 10 CCTV cameras. Now, how much oversight do you need to prove that something's been done properly? Honestly, God, I've never seen, in all my times as a public representative, I've never seen anything as reckless and as stupid as what they are doing to our fishing industry.
Deputy Padraig McLaughlin, thank you very much indeed. That's Deputy McLaughlin there, and anticipate we'll have more discussions about that in Dáil Éireann in the coming days. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll be discussing the concept of building your own. Is it an art that we've lost? And more importantly, is it an art that we can get back?
Lidl's inflation-busting offers are helping families all across Ireland.
As a family of 5, I have seen huge changes in the savings. I see them every week. There's a great variety of products. Very pleased with it.
Inflation-busting offers at Lidl. More for you. Customers were paid a gratuity for their time.
If you're getting married, the in-house design team at BizPrint can get all your wedding stationery and signage customised to your requirements. Just visit weddinginvites.ie or call BizPrint at Port Road, Letterkenny on 9177 955.
Milford Tiles, Wood Flooring and Bathware, Milford Retail Park, now open. Large range of wall and floor tiles on display and in stock. Over 70 different laminate floors to suit every pocket. Tilers and wood fitters available. New Bathware showroom now open. Milford Tiles, Wood Flooring and Bathware, 083 091 0707.
The award-winning Genesis Aesthetics and Skincare Clinic Udor offers the most advanced skincare treatments for men and women, treating conditions such as acne, skin tags, rosacea and scarring. As a qualified aesthetics practitioner, Mary Ferry offers a range of anti-aging treatments including dermal fillers, thread lifts, profilo, skin boosters, microneedling and LED light therapy. Hair and makeup also available. Download the Genesis Salon app today or call 07495 325 75.
Mr. Blue Sky. The Lotto jackpot's been won. Again. Already. That's 3 times in just 3 months. The National Lottery. It could be you. Play responsibly. Play for fun.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, offering low-rate car loans with fast approval. Apply online at letterkennycu.ie or in office today.
For many years, people would have built their own homes. Families would have built a house and moved into the house and maintained the house and would have been, in many cases, self-sufficient. That's a skill that was alive and well up to just 2 or 3 generations ago, we're told. And Harrison Gardner is the author of a book, Building Your Own. He's also presenting a TV series on the same theme, and he's trying to get us to recover and retrieve that skill. Harrison joins us on Zoom. Harrison, good morning.
Hi, good morning. Thanks so much for having me.
It is our pleasure. Harrison, I'm going to be honest and upfront. I regard myself as a complete and utter klutz when it comes to doing things. I couldn't hammer a nail straight. I could barely put a picture up on a wall straight, never mind even consider any form of DIY. Do you believe for people like myself there is some hope that we could learn to retrieve some of the skills that we've lost?
Absolutely. It's you're not alone in those feelings, you know, and I think the real goal here with the book, the TV show and everything we're doing with our teaching school is to reignite the conversation of building your own home, to kind of take back that conversation out of the architecture offices, off the construction sites, and back to the dining table, because it really is something that affects all of us. It's something that we all have a valid opinion in, and we should all have a voice in. And by learning a few things, by learning a few techniques or a bit of information or the language that's used around these topics, then we can really start joining those conversations. And some people are going to go and build their own homes because financially that's their only option. And for other people, they're going to learn how to talk to their builder a little better and really know what they're asking for and what they're paying for.
From the point of view of planning and designing a home, obviously there's, you know, you have to bring the architects in because you have to present plans to the planning office that will meet their requirements, and they're going to be very, very specific in what they want in terms of the application before you get permission to actually construct anything. So obviously that's going to have to be done. But your belief is that once that's been done, people can be far more proactive in what's happening. In our own case, about 10 years ago, we put an extension in our house. Now, I will be absolutely honest. What we did was we spoke to a consultant in the architect's office. They effectively took on the role of being our project manager. We spoke to them about what we wanted and needed. He sat down, showed us the designs. We said, that's lovely. And then we moved out. We rented another house close by. And the builders and the architect's office guy that acted essentially as our clerk of works. They got on with it, and 6 months later we moved back into our renovated home, and we went and had a look occasionally. But I would have to be honest and say, whereas we were heavily involved in the design, we contributed absolutely zero to the actual building. You believe that can change?
Well, I think, to be honest, from my side, I think it's a very lucky position to be in, that you're able to do that. I think for a lot of people, the reality is they can barely afford their mortgage as it is, or are struggling to get a mortgage. So the idea of living somewhere else while paying someone else to build their home, suddenly they have 3 huge expenses coming out at once. And for a lot of people, that's not possible. And so building your own home has to be possible. It has to be an option for everyone. And it is in a lot of other countries. And it's just awakening that culture here and bringing it back here, because it always was a part of the culture in Ireland. You know, you even have a word for it here that, coming from Australia, I don't know the word for mehel in Australia, but there's a word here for this coming together and supporting your community and being supported by your community to make sure that everyone's housed and everyone's fed and everyone's looked after.
The word mehel is an interesting one, actually. I mean, obviously we're familiar with the word, but a lot would say, sadly, it's a word that harks back to an olden time. But maybe it's an olden time and an olden tradition that you believe can be revived.
Absolutely. You know, I think we have streamlined in the last 2 generations, and we've all been encouraged to become specialists in one thing and subcontract every other part of our life out to other people. And I don't think housing or food should be one of these things that you subcontract out to other people. It's integral to what makes us human. It's what we need to survive is housing and shelter and food. And I think these are things that we should be talking about every day. We should be thinking about constantly, because houses aren't products. They aren't something you buy off the shelf and you can return if something's broken. They need to grow and change with us, because we're constantly growing and changing ourselves. So as we have kids, as the family needs to move in, as we decide we want to take up a new hobby and we need an art studio or an extension or whatever it is, the house needs to keep evolving with us. And without learning the skills and the ideas that it takes to design and create a space that can work for you, that expense is never going to stop. It's going to keep going out. And for some people, that's a really difficult reality to face. So learning to build for themselves, learning some of the basic tools and the language, coming to something like Common Knowledge, which is our build school that we run down in Clare, can introduce you to 30 other people who all finding solutions, who all believe that it's possible to take something like this on. And everyone is at a different stage in that journey.
Tell us something of your own background, because it's clear from listening to you that you're passionate about this. I'm not just listening to a professional who is imparting professional knowledge and perspectives. I'm listening, I believe, to someone who is truly passionate. And where has that passion come from?
I guess I started out in conventional construction in Australia, block and timber framing, and I did that for several years. And then I took those skills over to some developing countries and was working there for several years, thinking that I was there to teach. And what I realized was that there were styles of building out there that used a lot of the same principles, but used very different materials and very different ideas, depending on culture, depending on climate, and depending on finance. And so over the years, I've started mixing and matching the conventional construction techniques I have with the natural building techniques that I've learned and the recycled building techniques that I've learned over the years. And what's common across all of them are the basic principles that apply to all buildings. And so I've divided the book into 7 chapters that break up each of those principles of gravity, foundations, how heat moves in and out of a home, what materials can be interchanged with other materials. And I've tried to make it as digestible and easy to understand as possible, because I've seen over the years, after teaching over 1,000 students now how to build, that these ideas are tangible. They are just there. You just need to sit with them long enough and believe that you can learn them.
The TV show is accompanying the book, and a lot of people will find that very interesting. When can we actually see it?
The show's coming out in September this year. It's going to be a 5-part series showing on RTE1.
and the principles of build your own are going to be explored in a number of areas. And I mean, you're talking about very practical stuff. I mean, things like plastering, moving earth, basic demolition, installing insulation, building eternal walls, cladding, things like that, which, I mean, to me, again, I would be inclined to shirk very much from that. But you're saying we don't have to shirk, that we can actually take this on and perhaps surprise ourselves at how much we can do?
Absolutely. I would say only 20% of the jobs around a construction site are highly specialized. The other 80%, laborious tasks that can be learned fairly quickly as well. So if you're on a budget and if you have someone who's willing to show you how to do it, like I did with the families on the TV show, you're able to take on these projects and save yourself paying someone else to move things from point A to point B, or someone else to install something in a wall that you're going to have to do 2,000 times throughout your house. So if you learn it just once, if you spend half an hour learning how to do it once, you can be the one to repeat it that 2,000 times and save paying someone else to do that task.
You spoke about your experience going to developing countries where you expected that you would be the teacher imparting the knowledge. What perhaps you didn't expect was that you would also be the student who would actually learn techniques that you've managed to take on, and presumably some of those techniques are now being built into what you're passing on to your students here.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's been an integral shift in my life, realizing that we're all teachers and we're all students simultaneously, and there's no hierarchy. And that's why we started our social enterprise called Common Knowledge, because it's all just shared knowledge. What we need to do is to increase this bank of general information and not shy away from having a little bit more understanding about more aspects of our lives, because it's great to be specialized in one area. It's important. It's a great way to form a career, but life is more than our job. And we need shelter, we need food, we need community, and there is a whole lot of knowledge that was very common just a few generations ago that we're losing today. And so something we're doing with Common Knowledge is running a one-day festival called Rekindle down in Ennistimon this May, which is a intergenerational festival. It's celebrating the knowledge that our elder members of our community have, and showcasing them and connecting those members with younger members of the community to encourage knowledge transfer verbally and visually and tactilely, not just being stored in books in libraries.
Harrison, it's been a pleasure speaking to you this morning, and thanks indeed for sharing that with us. Harrison is author of Building Your Own, runs the Common Knowledge endeavour in Ennistimon, just outside Ennistimon in County Clare, and that Building Your Own TV series on RTE1 from September. For now, Harrison, we look forward to that, and thanks very much indeed.
Thanks so much for having me. Bye.
It has been our pleasure. That's Harrison speaking to us there from Ennistimon, just outside Ennistimon in County Clare. Just some of your comments that have been coming in. Caller says, and this is in regards to the fishing, why is an unelected committee in Brussels making these decisions for Ireland? It's frustrating and makes me question if the UK did the right thing in leaving the EU. Unfortunately, the way things have panned out, we got into a very lengthy discussion on the Killybegs situation, and we haven't been in a position to speak to Brendan Devaney. So a question that had come in, caller is asking about the disallowed Armagh goal on TV last night. They said two of the pundits said it should have stood, two more said no, it couldn't stand as it was thrown into the net. Was the ref right on this occasion? I've no doubt that will be addressed in detail on the DL debate, which is on tonight. So if you want to get the the views of Brendan Devaney, it'll be on the DL debate tonight. No doubt this is going to be discussed. He'll have feedback and analysis from all the big games, including Donegal versus Roscommon in the Nicky Rackard Cup, Donegal versus Fermanagh in the Minor Football Championship, and of course the Donegal Armagh Ulster Senior Football Quarter Final. Guests will include Oisin McConnell and DL News sports reporter Ryan Ferry. That's this evening after the 7 o'clock news. Also, of course, it's podcast on highlandradio.com. I'm going to take a short break. Back in a moment when we'll be speaking about news of a major development for the pier in Rathmullen.
There is a place with a proud history of helping others, a place that refuses to look the other way. Today, Ukraine needs help, and that place is ready to welcome the Ukrainian people with open arms, to support those who have to stay behind. And there's a place to do it all, irelandforukraine.ie. A united response from Irish media organisations in support of charities that can make a difference, both here and in Ukraine. Donate now at irelandforukraine.ie.
When your new smart meter arrives, it's going to change everything about how you use electricity. And Electric Ireland is ready to help you enjoy it all. From choosing your own billing date to saying goodbye to estimated bills and taking more control over your usage, you'll be able to make better energy choices for you and for Ireland. So the better it'll be for everyone. Search Electric Ireland smart meters today. Electric Ireland. We're brighter together.
Forward Emphasis International, based in Mallinhead, are expanding their in-office sales team with attractive bonus schemes and insurance qualifications available. Bursary and study support also provided. Experience in contact centres or insurance services is desirable but not essential, as full training will be provided. Please visit their website at www.forwardemphasis.ie and apply via their careers page.
Highland Radio weather updates with Ireland West Airport. Thinking of a sun holiday with the family? You can now fly to Barcelona 3 times weekly this summer with Ryanair and enjoy some of Europe's best family campsites. Ireland West Airport. You're flying.
Staying mainly dry, a mix of cloud and sunny spells today. Some isolated showers in the afternoon. Top temperatures 11 to 13 degrees Celsius. Light to moderate easterly winds. Tonight, mostly dry with clear spells. Just some isolated light showers. Some mist and fog patches developing in a light easterly or variable breeze. Quite cold with lowest temperatures 1 to 4 degrees Celsius with a touch of grass frost possible. Tomorrow, Tuesday, it'll be largely dry and bright with long sunny spells. Again, scattered showers possible in the afternoon. Top temperatures 12 to 14 in a light to moderate easterly breeze. And that's the way the weather looks at the moment.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, with monster loans available up to €60,000 for all occasions. Visit letterkennycu.ie.
Just a few of your comments. If you're going to use different surnames for your children, ensure you bring birth certs with you to the airport, especially if your child's surname is different to yours. Many people have been caught out with this, as it is a very important safety measure. And a caller says, I always thought anyone who assumed a double-barrelled name in Ireland was a bit uppity and the nearest you got to having a title in this country. We had a call about the census. Caller says, any census enumerator in the high-vis jacket with census ID can supply you with a large brown pre-post addressed envelope which allows you to confidentially mail your completed census form to census headquarters. Caller says, I got a text on Saturday to say my AIB bank card had been compromised. Just to warn people, this is a scam as I don't have an AIB account. And I think we've all just become almost bored with receiving scam texts and emails. I got a text last night on a Sunday evening from An Post telling me that I owe money on a parcel, and I'm not expecting any parcels, and I have no doubt that that too is a scam. And one of the things that they speak about is if you get a warning that you owe An Post, and this is the clever one, they tell you owe, I mean, I think the amount in this text I got was about 179, and the thinking is that if they ask you for a small amount of money, you'll just go and you'll just pay it, whereas if they ask you for a large amount of money, you'll think about it. And the irony is, if it's a large amount of money they're asking for, that one is probably genuine. However, just always be very, very wary. And if you believe that something is a scam, never click a link, never respond back. And if the text or message or whatever purports to be from An Post or from a bank or wherever, don't click a link, ring them directly and they'll put you right. Conor says, great news for Donegal Piers and Harbours today. 15 million announced. Fair play to McConalogue and Donegal County Council, so says a caller. Now, indeed, over 14 million is to be spent on rejuvenating marine infrastructure in Donegal. It's under the Brexit Adjustment Reserve. Now, part of this is ongoing funding for the works which are ongoing at the breakwater in Greencastle. Also works being done in Burton Port and Mahery, which, as we know, is underway. And a significant project for the pier in Rathmullen. And I'm joined on the line by Senator Niall Blaney. Senator Blaney, good morning.
Good morning, Donal.
The work on the pier in Rathmullen, and we're often told that the pier in Rathmullen is to a large extent an underutilised and underused resource, and good to see that some money is now being put into it.
It is good to see. I suppose Rathmullen is one of those that is being under weight restrictions for quite a many years. But moreover, Donal, I wasn't just ringing about Rathmullen. I was ringing in relation to all the announcement this morning, because Minister McConalogue's out of the county. He'd be on to himself, and he had to be around. He's out of the country, actually, in government business. But the amount of money that has been received by piers and harbours across the county has been quite significant. Announcement for only 1 year. There never has been one this large in a given year. And moreover, the overall announcement was for practically half the monies that have been announced. And I suppose people wonder, why did that happen? The reason that happened is that there's been an awful lot of planning going into this behind the scenes. First of all, by Minister Macron and giving these monies to the Brexit Adjustment Reserve Fund. Moreover, then, the work that he has done with his colleagues in the council and government colleagues also in the council, with the county manager and Cal Swinney, the engineer, over the last year, to examine our piers and harbours and the state of them during the last year, and to identify what funds were needed to put them right. And he has battled hard to get these much needed monies, but they're very, very welcome.
In terms of the individual projects, I mean, they are to build up the infrastructure, they are to make things easy. Now, you'll be aware, obviously, there is an ongoing discussion about the situation in Killybegs, and inevitably we're getting people are making the comment that they're saying, look, it's all very well to build up infrastructure, but we're creating a situation where we're building infrastructure and we're building piers, but the way we're treating our fishers and the way we're actually dealing with the fleet and the way we're dealing with the industry, it seems people say leave a lot to be desired.
Well, I think that's unfair, first of all, Donal, because the Killybegs issue is a Killybegs alone issue from the point of view that they spent the last 6 months of last year having everything weighted to pier. With Minister McConaughey's input, he's got the situation that 10% will be weighted to pier. Now, there are issues there, but it's going to take calm heads. I do know that Mr. McConaughey is infrastructurally for the county. He's very focused, but he's also focused in settling issues like this. I believe there are solutions that can and will be implemented, but it's going to take calm heads. I know we met them down there recently, but as a matter of working together, before he can get a final solution to this, we need to overcome the current hurdle. Solutions are there, and it's going to take everybody around the table to hammer that out and sort it out. I believe it's resolvable. It just needs the right focus, and Minister McConaughey is very focused and he's very solution oriented as well. And I hope that comes to conclusion sooner rather than later, because it's in the fishermen's interest to take it to a conclusion sooner rather than later.
Well, certainly the scenario that was described to us by Dennis, the skipper of the Lauren, was a scenario that seems utterly unsustainable. So we'll be watching that one obviously with interest. In terms then of the infrastructure, talk to us a little about what is planned for Rathmullen, because obviously you'll be taking a keen interest in that, being from the Fanad area yourself. I mean, it does seem that obviously ongoing work on the breakwater at Greencastle. There's ongoing work in Burton Port, and we've seen an awful lot of being done by Donegal County Council and the local community there. Rathmullen, a lot of work's been done along the shore, and for that to be expanded out onto the pier suggests, that there's maybe good things in the future.
Yeah, well, I suppose at the end of the day, if you have any infrastructure, you want it to be at its ultimate, and Rathmullen hasn't been at its ultimate for quite many years. There's been a 3.5 ton restriction on it for probably well over 10 years at this stage. And I think there's lots of possibilities for Rathmullen. It's actually one of the deepest ports in the country. It's the third deepest port in the country. From even a safety point of view of out over in the North Atlantic, it's a vital piece of infrastructure. And moreover, leisure is starting to take off there as well. There's many opportunities to be explored from Rathmullen, and it's vital now we get these monies spent in a speedily fashion and get up and running and functioning like it should be as up here.
And we obviously the Rathmullen to Buncrana ferry service has been a huge success over the years with the support of Donegal County Council, and we hope to see that one confirmed and back on the water again. A comment that's come in from Councillor Ian McGarvey. Rathmullen should be considered a port for liners. Its depth of 40 feet would suggest that it could take some of the smaller cruise liners in there. Now, obviously, it would take quite a lot of work to develop facilities at the pier and on the ground for that maybe to be feasible. But I mean, certainly, as you've already acknowledged, I mean, it does have the depth. So, if you had the facilities, you could be looking at some of the smaller cruise ships coming right into Rathmullen.
Absolutely. I would be open to looking at any ideas. Rathmullen, Greencastle, areas like that is absolutely open to cruise liners. And it's about, I suppose, creating the mindset and the ideas there. You can put floating pontoons out to facilitate a cruiser. It would depend if you were going to bring many cruises on, you would look for, as you alluded to there, much more concrete infrastructural facilities on the ground to accommodate these large cruisers, because the very large ones would take about 150 metres of a pier to land at. But there are smaller ones as well. But many ideas like that. There's an awful lot of potential at Rathmullen. It is on tap. I remember years ago, Ben Lynchy having the council down and doing a talk in relation to Ellen Marina there. It's a fantastic location. It's fantastic facilities around here, and very much open to exploring any ideas with any community or councillors around the area in relation to it.
And obviously Greencastle, that breakwater there, we've been told for many, many years that Greencastle's potential for further growth has been hampered because of the lack of a proper breakwater, and the fact that will finally be addressed after many years' discussions can only be positive.
Oh, absolutely. There's massive potential in Greencastle. You obviously have your fishing there and the ferry as well. But from the point of view of even expanding as a port, or the liners again, I believe there's massive opportunities for the liners on the doorstep of Derry City. You have the Antrim coastline, you have the Galway coastline. There's so many attractions here. I believe there's many possibilities for Greencastle to develop. So this is a welcome start. The first one is it came. The fear was that when so many were spent years and years ago on the breakwater, that it would be lost. But thankfully it's been protected by Donegal County Council. And moreover, I want to thank Donegal County Council for the efforts they have put on, because really if they hadn't the house in order, we wouldn't be able to announce these monies today. So thanks really has to go to them, that they've worked really hard over the last year, and now in a position that they're ready to run and create these projects on the ground to ensure they happen. And I have no doubt in many of these cases, particularly infrastructurally, where the allocations for infrastructure, it's going to leave those piers and harbours in good shape for quite a number of decades.
Well, we know that Daniel got to speak to Minister Charlie McConalogue over the weekend on this issue, so we have had a word with Minister McConalogue, and we'll hear. People can hear what the Minister had to say if they want to go onto our website, highlandradio.com, and they'll hear the Minister's views there. And thank you indeed as well, Senator Blaney, for speaking to us this morning. Senator Niall Blaney there. And that's pretty much the 9 till noon show for today. Greg back on the programme in the morning. For myself, Donal Kavanagh, it's been a pleasure as always. Thanks indeed to Caroline, who produced the show, for all of her help. Thanks to Donna Marie for all of her help as well. Coming up next, we have John Breslin. He's going around the Northwest, and very interesting and packed programme from John as always. But from myself, Donal, thank you very much indeed, and have a very good day.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union, now offering mortgages from €40,000 to €600,000 with no hidden fees or transaction charges. Letterkenny Credit Union.